welcome to the 379th episode of the Random Podcast from Heck. My name is Tony. This is the podcast about random things in the world of entertainment, which includes movies, TV shows, and comic books. Big shout out to Andrew Loken. He is a big supporter of the show. You can be a supporter by going to patreon.com/gmanfromheck. Any amount you can commit to will be awesome. If you commit at the Rick Jones tier or higher, you get access to the Secret Podcast from Heck, which is an additional 30 to 45 minutes of extra podcast entertainment every single week. I've been doing some off my mind, just random comic book topics. Like I talked about, is it a good story element for supervillains to discover a hero's secret identity? I talked about, should superheroes use social media? Sometimes I've been looking back at old comics. I've been doing a lot of the classic Marvel What If, and I like those because a lot of them I haven't actually read, and there's there's sort of that nostalgia feeling, even though I haven't read them, but I've read some, and they're different characters each time, so I may do that. I haven't done one in a couple weeks. I may do another What If this coming week. We shall see. But if you can't commit to a monthly commitment, you can also help out by going to coffee.com/gmanfromheck, and you can buy me a virtual cup of coffee or three. And that's ko-fi.com/gmanfromheck. And I've been mentioning this, if you are new to Patreon, if you're existing Patreon, this doesn't affect you. If you are a new Patreon supporter, if you use the iOS app, Apple is going to charge you 30% more. So if you are going to sign up on a browser. And you'll save yourself 30%. And the same thing, there is a shop element now added. So I've been putting, someday I need to go back and kind of click things over. I've been trying to sell some of these off my mind episodes in case you I don't know if I want to commit and so forth. You can buy just a single episode. And I've been putting it at $3, which is the same as a coffee, the KOFI. Buy me a cup of coffee thing. So you have that option. But you also have the option of just listening here, and any bit you can do to support helps. But listening helps. Just listening to the episodes, downloading or however you listen to it. I'm assuming streaming works the same. I just stupidly added, stupid because it just took me so long, I added a podcast to YouTube because I realized a lot of people listen to podcasts on YouTube. That's what my daughter does, but the podcast that she's really into is more of a video podcast. I would love to do that, but I think it would be boring if it was just me and camera. Someday, maybe I'll it's just the logistics of getting someone else to do this with me. It's a time, and since I don't always record it, I don't record at the same time all the time. Like right now, this is not normal because it's Thanksgiving week, I didn't mention that. So this week has been a whole crazy. But what is cool about YouTube is it automatically separates the show into chapters, which I believe there's a way I could do that on my end when I upload it, but I'm not sure exactly how that works and if it takes more time. And honestly, I'm barely staying afloat, just trying to keep up with everything. But YouTube does it automatically, and I think it was only able to upload the last 100 episodes. So if for some reason you want to go further back, you can find them all on Podbean, and they might be on Apple Podcasts and all that. So they are there, and I'm never going to get rid of them. I got no reason to. So they are there for you to listen to. On with this show. So as I mentioned, we had Thanksgiving this past week. And you would think, with me having time off, where did the time go? I don't know. And I think part of it is I had so many tests to grade from the previous week, and just trying to stay afloat. Like I said, there's so much to do. So with that, even though I planned on doing more, it didn't quite happen. And I know you are understanding. And I, always question the length of this podcast if it's too long. But, I'm trying to do what's good for myself as well, because if I'm losing my mind or whatever, it's not going to really make for the best show. What we have on this week, we have Moana 2. So I went to see that. I didn't go see Wicked again. So Wicked came out, which I thought Wicked was coming out Thanksgiving week, Thanksgiving Day or whatever, but it came out against Gladiator, and I think I did mention last week how the box office compared, and congrats. I will give props to Wicked for having a lower budget and just blowing Gladiator 2 away. And before I forget, this is kind of like, well, I'll mention this in the news aspect. It's not, I don't really feel it's news, but I've seen several people report on it. So I went to see Moana 2 because, as I may have mentioned, I just recently saw the first one like 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago for the first time. Never saw it before. And, my daughter had seen it several times, and I realized it was at a point where I don't know who she saw it with, with her friends probably, because it's, when she started hanging out with her friends, because, kids don't want to hang out with their parents all the time, I guess. And yes, and then when she was doing some babysitting, she watched it several times, so she loved it, and we watched it together, which was nice. We got Silo. I'm loving Silo, and thank you, Apple TV Plus. I think it was like Tuesday, because I have like all notifications on my phone because I'm just insane, and I get a notice like Apple TV notification, new episode of Silo. I'm like, wait, what? I was like, it's Tuesday, it's not Thursday. I'm like, thank you for uploading it not on Thanksgiving Day. You're giving me a chance to watch it ahead of time, and not so that was huge for me, because usually it's supposed to be Fridays, but they always load it like Thursday nights, which is great. We got the penultimate episode of Superman and Lois. That's crazy to think that after this coming week, so after you listen to this podcast, new episode might be out, depending on when you're listening to it. And then that's it. No more Superman and Lois. That's weird. So I'll talk more about that. And then with Cobra Kai. So we got episode 6, or episode, was it 6, 5? Episode 6 through 10 came out. Because, last week I meant to do 606 and 607. Didn't happen. Then this week I was like, well, I have more time, so I can do at least 2. But the episodes tend to be a little longer, because normally the episodes have been like 30 minutes, but now they've been venturing more into like 40 something minutes. And I'm also kind of looking at this. So for my sake and for the show's sake, because since I can't just condense my coverage, I feel like they're gonna miss something if I don't mention like what just one thing happened. But I'm looking at the rest of this calendar year of 2024, and there's not that many shows. We have this week we have Star Wars Skeleton Crew starting up, so I will start covering that beginning on the next episode on 380. And other than that, so it's like, because we'll have one more episode, the final episode of Superman and Lois next week's episode, and then it's just Silo and Cobra Kai. So that's it. So with Superman and Lois ending, because Silo's on episode 3, I'm thinking it might be, for the sake of the show, maybe it's better if I do one episode per week, because I still say there's something about that, because as of now, I've only watched 607. It's possible I could try to watch 608 and then do some magic editing and then record that and put it in there. Small chance that I'll do that, but I'm thinking maybe not, because just everything, because I still have like some work to do, and I like the fact like how it ends. I like the suspense of it, keeping you waiting, and I know some people just absolutely don't like that, but so we'll see how this goes. Now with the news, because Thanksgiving in the United States, things tend to slow down, so not a whole lot of news, but we'll see what we have here with DC. I guess we'll start this. Alan Tudyk, who was in Moana 2, and he's a chicken. I didn't realize he was a chicken in the first one. It's like, okay, a little annoying, but I guess it's supposed to be funny. So Alan Tudyk, he's a funny guy, and he's very versatile. He's actually playing he's voicing 3 characters in Creature Commando. Now, I'm assuming that's because of his talent and not because it's like, hey, we'll hire you to do 3 roles, 3 voices instead of hiring 3 people. Maybe, I don't know. I doubt it. But it's just because he has that ability. Now, one of the things that James Gunn has always said, that his goal, his plan with the whole 10-year whatever thing is he wants to have the same person playing the live action and the voiceovers, animated. He wants it to be the same person. So like Frank Grillo, who is Rick Flag Sr., he's in Creature Commandos. He's going to be in Superman, and it's the same thing. So they confirmed that Alan Tudyk's going to be live action. So it's like, wait, what does this mean? Because he's playing three characters. Because like someone asked us, like, does this mean we're going to see? So he's playing Dr. Phosphorus, Clayface, and Will Magnus in Creature Commandos, or he's voicing them. So someone's like, are we going to see live action of all three? And James Gunn's like, well, no. If it's like a lesser character, like a side character, that it's not that big of a deal. So basically, what he's saying is most likely one of these characters we're going to see in live action. Could it be Clayface? Will it be Will Magnus? I mean, Will Magnus seems like it could be easier because Clayface, where are you going to put Clayface? And I mean, obviously we got Batman and Robin. We're still working on the script. We got The Batman Part 2, but I don't know if that would count as what since it's not really a James Gunn thing. So I don't know, but we'll be seeing Alan Tudyk again live action somehow. So have that to look forward to. Kraven the Hunter. So that this comes out, I think it was December 13th. They're predicting that it's going to open lower than Morbius did. And part of the reason, they had different dates. They're questioning whether December is the best time. It's also, the main thing is it's going, I didn't even realize this was a thing. There's a Lord of the Ring like anime coming out. How did I not hear about this? I've heard nothing about it. No one talking about it. And I feel like I'm just so burnt out of Lord of the Rings. With the original, the trilogy, the movie trilogy, that was epic. And we had like the extended versions, which was like so long. And then we had The Hobbit. And I still don't know if I saw the final Hobbit. I don't even remember. And it feels like it's been so long. But over the years, especially more so recently, I've kind of had this aversion to like the old timey stuff, and I just find it like, I don't really know why that is. I can't pinpoint like what really caused this or started pushing it, but that's just how I feel. Where if it's the sword and sorcery stuff, I'm just like, okay, that's fine, that's cool, but I don't really need that so much. So I can't put my finger on that. So, Lord of the Ring anime, I mean, that could be interesting, but yeah. I mean, obviously, if I'm going to pick the two, I'm going to see Kraven the Hunter. But the other thing with Morbius, as say what you will about Morbius, add Jared Leto. Jared Leto is a bigger name than the guy playing Kraven the Hunter. Because for some reason, I always forget his name. It's not Jason Alexander, but yeah, he's such a good actor. I mean, oh my gosh, Bullet Train and Kick Ass and right? It's the same. We're talking about the same guy. I hope it does well for the sake of the Sony Spider-Man adjacent movies or whatever you want to call them. It could be interesting. I think it's an ambitious idea to make a Kraven the Hunter movies. It's like, what are you going to do with this, and why? But I'll see it. But the other thing also, so it's going against Lord of the Rings, but this is an R-rated movie, and we're starting to see that the R-rated comic book movies or action, whatever you want to call them, that there is an audience for that if they have an interest in the item. So with Kraven the Hunter, if they can market it right, and I don't know how exactly you would market it, because you can't say Spider-Man. I mean, you could say from Marvel, in association with Marvel, whatever. But I think it's going to be a hard sell. But that being said, the people who are interested, if the audience, the people that are interested know about it, because not everyone is as knowledgeable as you or I about these things. We've known about the movies for a while, right? But not everyone knows about, like, what the heck is Kraven Hunter. There's maybe people that aren't aware that Kraven Hunter is a Spider-Man villain. So they may not know that, but if they're aware of it, they might decide to go see that over Lord of the Rings anime. Maybe not. I don't know, because maybe people are not like me and do want anything Lord of the Rings. So we'll have to see. But I just think that, yeah, that Jared Leto did play a role, and maybe even Matt Smith. So we'll see. But I hope this does well. There's that Amanda Waller spin-off series that's like, we haven't heard anything about that. They were like, yeah, it's still happening, and I think they're working on the scripts, and that was another thing. Speaking of scripts, I guess James Gunn said that he's kind of approaching things differently than how Marvel does it, where he's not gonna greenlight anything until a script is ready. He wants to make sure that script is done, the script is good, and then they're gonna start. Okay, this is happening, because then once the script is ready, then that's when they start casting and so forth. So it's not like, right now it's like we have Avengers Secret Wars, what's it going to be about? Who knows, because things can change, things are being rewritten, and scripts are whatever, all that stuff. So yeah, he's basically like, once the script's done, we'll talk more about it. I guess that makes sense, but yeah, I don't know. He probably knows way better than I do, so we'll have to see what's going to happen with that. Also with DC, Jeffrey Wright. This I think this is kind of silly that it's even brought up, but people were questioning, why wasn't Jim Gordon in the Penguin? I mean, you can't have everyone in the Penguin. While it would have been nice to have like some sort of appearance of Batman, it would have probably felt too forced, and it wasn't really necessary. This was in this little corner, and I don't know how you would put Batman in the Penguin, since this is just like pure street level stuff. And I mean, unless one of the drug dealers, the henchmen, someone gets busted by Batman, I don't know. But we've also seen it, Batman's been kind of busy, and he's kind of been blaming himself for what happened in Gotham and all that. But people were asking, well, where's Jim Gordon been? The same thing. I'm trying to remember. I need to watch the Batman again. Is he a commissioner in the Batman? Is he the commissioner yet, or is he just like a high up detective? I don't even remember. But it's not like he's going to be taking on everything, because you maybe like the drug aspect. If he's just like a detective or something like that, it might not be his beat. If he's a commissioner, he's busy, but like after parts of Gotham blowing up, the bomb, when the Sophia's car bomb, spoiler, went off, yeah, that's probably gonna get his attention. But so it was kind of like such a non-answer that I saw this article like Jeffrey Wright's on why he wasn't in, or and basically he's like Jim Gordon was never meant to be, he was never a part of the Penguin. That makes sense. And I'm sure there's also salary thing. I mean, I don't know how. I mean, Colin Farrell is a little different because it's his gig, but I'm sure. I mean, because you don't want to take a pay cut. I mean, that's a tricky thing. He got paid X amount of dollars for playing this role in a movie, and then you say, hey, we want you to play the same character in a TV show, but we want to pay you way less because we're talking TV money versus movie money. And it might be like, no thanks. Thanks for asking. But then some people might be like, yeah, I love this character, or I would love to have another gig. Maybe he was busy, who knows? But I don't think it's necessary, and I don't think you need to make like such a big deal about it. Like, why wasn't this? Why wasn't? Because there's just. We can't do everything, and we shouldn't see everything. So we'll see what happens next. Apparently, The Boys season 5 has started filming. There's been like some cast photos like released. I don't know if they're official now. No, I didn't. I just saw like a headline. So it's weird that it's a final season, but all good things, all that stuff. So we'll have to see. Rumor time. Apparently. There's a rumor that the Kang storyline is going to be like majorly handled off screen, that Marvel's like really trying to avoid mentioning or just even like using a character. So I guess all that's going to happen like off screen, and in like Doomsday and Secret Wars, maybe they'll just like casually mention him, but there won't be any like appearance or anything like that. I don't know if that's really necessary. I don't really get it. One thing I thought I heard, I thought like his his accuser dropped the civil suit, so maybe she was paid off, or or not paid off. Maybe there was a settlement, and so it's like they're not going to court. But the thing which I don't understand is, why don't you just recast? He was basically fired or let go from his role. I mean, unless there's some clause in there, and if they try to recast, do they have to compensate him for more? Because maybe it's one thing. It's like they can word it a certain way where, like, yeah, we had a change in direction. We're not using this character anymore, so we don't need you. Maybe he's still on contract, and maybe it's just there's like a time limit. It's like, okay, we have you signed up for 2 more movies or whatever, 2 movies and or 2030 or whatever, some like timeline where if at the time comes and we don't use you, then you're free to go out of your contract. So maybe that's it. Because if he was to be fired from his role, they would probably have to compensate him for that. I mean, I don't know. Or do you have to? If someone is fired for, because I'm sure also Disney has strict character clauses where if you're basically a piece of crap, you're not working for us. And I don't know if they would have to compensate someone. It's like, you're being a piece of crap. We're not going to use you, but here's a check anyways, because that seems like a waste. So I would see that if they are like the studio, if this is like a primo role, we're like, hey, we want to give you this MCU money, but you have to live to this standard. That means you can't be hitting women or accused of hitting women. Again, I don't know what actually happened or not. I'm not there to speak on that. But it's just the other thing. Like, you can't go on social media and start spouting a bunch of, insane whatever. So I don't know how that works. But I'd say just recast them. It's like, just move on. It's like, thanks for your work. Thanks for, you did a great job. Unfortunately, we're going separate ways. Good luck to you. Good day, sir. Hey, you, now you're king. But the thing is, I never cared for King in the comics so much, so it doesn't matter. But just for the sake of, I don't know, I guess part of me like, oh, but there's going to be something and now we'll never see it. And so I don't know. Another rumor, Hawkeye. So is there going to be a Hawkeye season 2? I don't know if there's been an official thing. I would love for there to be another Hawkeye. A lot of people, since with the Blu-ray, the 4K physical media, which I need to get that, comes out this week. So a lot of people are like, oh, it says the complete first season, so that means we're going to get more. But no, I think they did the same thing with Moon Knight. Doesn't mean we're getting a Moon Knight season 2. Who knows if that'll happen? I mean, I would love it, obviously, but I am absolutely not going to, get my hopes up in any way. And I'm not going to hold my breath, because I can't hold my breath that long these days. So who knows? But it would be amazing if we had a season 2, because I love that show. What's Haley Steinfeld doing? And she's doing that Arcane, which I kind of wish I watched that. That's what it's called, right? Arcane. And I know I can still watch it, but I think it's like season 2 just came out. I know nothing about it. She's got Spider-Verse. Who knows when that's going to happen? And I don't know if she's got any other. I'm sure she's busy doing something. I mean, she's like oozing with talent. And Jeremy Renner, I don't know where he's at with his, recovering, and maybe he's back. And so I would love for there to be another one. But the rumor is that they're going to start filming in 2025, and maybe it'll come out like 2026, 27. Fingers crossed, man, because I want more. And it'd be great, as Kevin Feige said, that we'll start seeing some shows get actual season 2s, rather than. But yeah. So I'm going to say, but I want to see other characters as well. But if it's something good, I definitely want more, because it just seems weird where you got the first season and then that's it. It's like, wait, but there's more that we could see, more we can explore. So I don't know. There was a Spider-Verse, if you're into action figures, or Spider-Verse, there's a Spider-Boy Marvel Legends figure was revealed by Hasbro. Dan Slott got to do it, which is cool that they let him like post the first image, since he created the character. There's something neat about the design. I'm just not super crazy about the character, and we'll talk more about that when we get to the comic section, which is coming up. we talk about that. So yeah, and then the last bit of oh no, there was a okay. The last second to the last thing. There's a trailer for Ultimate Wolverine. Trailer, one of those Marvel motion, trailers, whatever. I am absolutely not looking forward to at all for the Ultimate Wolverine. It could be really cool, but looking at this trailer, I'm still quite. It's just like I'm not. I don't want to be accused of favoritism, or whatever. There are some things. I guess the Ultimate Marvel has more history, and I know I've been kind of sort of bagging on an absolute DC line because it's like, do we really need this? And that is a big question, with the cost of everything. And I saw someone bring up a good point. If we're going to get all these tariffs from our next, and I'm doing finger quotes, president, if he's raising all these tariffs like Mexico and Canada or whatever, a lot of comics are printed in Canada. So that means comics are going to be even more expensive. If we're talking $5 a comic now, like what are they going to go up to $6? Who the heck is going to be able to? Kids cannot read comics. So when you got something like Spider-Boy, who you can't, this is something that kids could totally be into, should be into, but they can't read comics. One of my students is dressed up as Scarlet Spider for Halloween, and I was like, that is awesome. And when I first heard he was when I found out about it, I'm like, yeah, he's Chasm now, and he's like, what? I had no idea who Chasm is. Which I envy him for not knowing. Can I not know who Chasm is? That Ben Reilly is Chasm? Can someone please remove that from my memory? Oh my God. Don't get me started. Stop. Tony, stop. Don't go on a rant. Don't go on a Ben Reilly rant. Stop. You can do this. Oh, but yeah, comics are so expensive. So I think that's what I was getting at. So Spider-Boy. It's a cool looking figure, but we'll see. And then the last bit of news, which isn't really news, like I said, what I was going to mention at the beginning, and I almost forgot. There's talk about with Wicked, Ariana Grande and her. This I'm not wasn't planning on talking about this. Her co-star, there's people like there's a lot of talk because Ariana Grande, whatever you think of her, whatever you think of her singing or her acting or whatever, she is a name. She is a star, and her co-star who has done some other stuff, but I feel like. And I could be totally wrong. I don't feel like she has the same name recognition. And just like, knucklehead me, right now off the top of my head, I can't even remember her name. So there was some talk that like, there's a difference in pay. And some people were like, it's because her co-star is black. So it kind of feels like some people are trying to say that there's like this racial discrimination that Ariana, even though they're equal roles, and I'm assuming because I know a bit of Wicked, a tiny bit, and my daughter was explaining more to me as we were driving to Chipotle, and she's like, "Can we listen to the Broadway Wicked?" And I'm like, "Sure." And I had listened to it. I should mention this next one if I ever watch the movie. But anyways, yeah. So I'll save some of that. So what it comes down to is they reportedly got paid the same amount, which is as it should be if they're equal roles in a movie. And that's the thing. I don't know. I mean, I kind of, this is the tough thing. So let's say we have a movie. Let's say we have like a Lethal Weapon type. We have a movie where there's a duo, where they're both important characters to the movie. They're going to have like approximately like the same screen time and all that. But if you have someone like Brad Pitt or someone, a big name, and then the second role, who again is important for the movie, is going to have almost like the same amount of screen time or all that, but maybe they're a younger actor or a less veteran, non-veteran actor, or maybe even a new actor, or whatever that the case may be. You wouldn't expect them to necessarily get the same amount of payment, because when you how are they going to build this movie? It's not going to be like Brad Pitt and Joe Fiddlestein or whatever. So yeah, should they get paid the same amount because they have the same amount of screen time ish? No, because one actor is going to be bringing in more to box office. And that's the other thing which this is where we get the touchy area where a lot of times when there's a female in the cast, or is like, oh, she's a woman, so she got paid less. But then a lot of times when you look at the movie in question, that the woman, unfortunately, has a smaller role and is not at the front center of the main story and everything like that. It makes sense that they would get a smaller role. Now, if you're talking someone like Kate Winslet or who are women characters, women actors, if whoever, Margot Robbie, let's how about that, or someone, obviously, yeah, they're a name, so they should get paid a good amount. Like if you look at Barbie, it's like, okay, Margot Robbie, Ryan Gosling, who's the bigger actor? I think Ryan Gosling's been around longer. I think he might have a more, although that's hard to say over the past few years. Margot Robbie should get paid more. The movie is literally called Barbie. She is the lead. While Ryan Gosling was a huge part of the movie, I don't think, he should get the same amount. I don't know. Okay, I don't know. But what I do know, that's the news for the week. How about that? All right, with comic books at Mad Cave, we had Gotcha Man. It doesn't sound right. Gotcha Man. Mad Cave Studios, Gotcha Man, number 5. So this is written by Cullen Bunn, and man, I would love to just talk to Cullen Bunn and say, hey man, why do you love Gotcha Man? Like, was it a Battle of the Planets? I mean, did you watch the original anime? I still need. I have. Who cares, right, Tony? I have like a Gotcha Man box set, and I've been every once in a while. I kind of stopped. I need to start doing that and just like pick away through the episodes because there's a lot, and I love that box set. I should do that. I'm going to stop right now. No. Anyways, so Gotcha Man. If you ever saw Battle of the Planets, you know what I'm talking about. I mean, I don't know what it is about these characters and this, because I've always debated which do I like more, Speed Racer or Battle of the Planets Gotcha Man. And they're two different things, but to me, it's like there's something, I don't know if it's just the characters, something is just, they're just so cool to me, and I just can't explain why. It's almost silly because if you were to look at them, they're dressed like birds and they got these helmets but so we got the fifth, not the last issue. Thank goodness this is ongoing. And I'm curious, like, when is this going to be collected? Because I've been reading them digitally, and I definitely want to get like the trade for this because I'm really digging this. So this issue, this is a kind of concludes the current storyline. This is a first arc, so which is what makes me think that there should be a trade. Is that the team got separated. June, Princess, whatever you want to call her, she was separated, and Doctor, I keep forgetting his name. What is it? Something with the N. I just knew it the other. I was like, okay, this is his name. I keep forgetting, but. He's like, well, she's on her own, and we have to. There's this giant mech in the city. All these people are in danger. So she's like in the heart of Galactor and having to fight everyone. And then there's this like secondary team, like this B team. So they're like, okay, we're gonna send them to try to help June, and there's a little we're seeing a little tension there with at least one of the members, because it's like, why are we treated like secondary characters when we should be as good as them, and because they're training, but they're they're the B team and that. So it's just I'm really digging this, and if you ever watch Battle of the Planets or Gotcha Man, if you're in the know, you should be checking this out because it's just really good. And then we have Gotcha Man Galactor. This is issue 4 of 4. So this is written by Steve Orlando. Kath Lobo does the art. This is the conclusion of this first of this miniseries. Hopefully we'll get more. And what's interesting about this is I'm trying to remember, since I haven't watched the original Gotcha Man, the final episode, whatever episode it is. There was this one episode, and I don't want to spoil anything, but there was hints about Galactor's character, or not Galactor, Bergcast, which it seems like such a, doesn't sound right. That's a, wasn't he Zoltron, right? There's something that, and yeah, this series really strongly hints about something that makes Bergcast different. And these people are kind of like insulted or disgusted by, what he is or whatever. And that's just part of the main story. We're really seeing like these people trying to assassinate him, and they've kind of infiltrated Galactor, because there's like all these different like types of agents in that. And, you were really seeing Bergcast, how his mind works. That, he's not kind of like the big doofus that he's kind of, not that he's a doofus in the anime, but just like, because he's always losing and everything. So it's been cool to see that. So you should definitely check both of these out. And but I just feel like, with what I remember as a child watching those Battle of the Planet episodes, because every time this one, and I don't know if it was the last episode or not, but when this would come up, I'd be like, holy crap, like, what does that mean? And then it would like, kind of recycle or not recycle, it was like start over, because I don't know if they were even showing them in order or whatever. And then you have to wait. It's like, okay, when's that episode going to be? When's that? And then, yeah. So I feel like I've spent way too much time talking about Gotchaman. I hope you're like with me and you're like, yeah, because I don't really see very many people that know about them. I mean, there every once in a while, I'll see like an artist, do a commission on that, and I'm like, that is so amazing. I love that. So hopefully you know what I'm talking about, because it's really, really good stuff. At Image, we had Cowl 1964, number 3. How is this just number 3? That doesn't make sense, because I know I didn't read issue 2, but I thought I didn't read like issue 2 and 3. I thought I was like really behind, but now it turns out I was just one issue behind. That doesn't make sense. I feel like this can't be right. So yeah, you should be reading that. It's Kyle Higgins and Rod Reese. And Alex Siegel, I think so it's just really good. Creepshow Volume 3, number 3. I didn't read this. I looked at it. I was like, wait, who's? I may be looking like it's Michael Walsh doing anything, because if he was, I will read this. I should read it. As I always say about the Creepshow, the comics, where they can be good, and I think I'm being a little too harsh with how like picky I'm being. But sometimes I feel like, because these aren't even like full-length issue stories, and they don't have to be, but sometimes my thing is horror comics don't always work. A lot of it depends on the art and the color and how creepy it is, because sometimes I feel like the color makes it almost not cartoony, but it doesn't quite have the creepy vibe. So yeah, I could just be wrong with that. So I didn't check that out, but I should. Falling in Love to the Path to Hell, number 6. I think I'm a couple issues behind on that, so I'm not sure what's going on. I am curious, and I wish I wasn't behind, but yeah, so I need to try to fix that. Grommets, number 6. Oh man, things are getting intense here. And the thing is, how is this such a good comic, Rick Remender? I mean, it's crazy how. Not that it's a simple idea. I mean, it's about a bunch of kids like skating, skater kids, and just trying to be, trying to live their life. So it takes place. Is it in the 80s? No, I'm forgetting. But they're just trying to do their thing, and just they're in this issue in particular, they're dealing with like the jocks, and it's just it gets brutal, because there's this party going on, and yeah, things just get really out of hand, because the jocks come and they're like trashing the place. This is why you don't have a party. I mean, it's like, you're gonna have a party, you're like asking for trouble. And so with this party, all these jocks come and they're just like trashing the place, and bringing kegs and just a mess and everything. I should mention, Brian Posehn also co-writes this, and the art is Brett Parson, I believe. It's just, things get really bad, and one of the jocks, man, he is unhinged, and it gets a little frustrating when the police show up. That's all I'm going to say. I don't want to spoil things, but this is such a good series, and it seems like so simple as to like there's no like high complexity story. I mean, it is complex, like writing all the different characters and what their emotions and situations, and so I really don't want to belittle it, but it's so good for it. It's not like spies, trying to infiltrate whatever the enemy territory, or superheroes, or someone getting power. It's such a like just down to earth story, and I think that's kind of like why. I mean, Rick Remender is just great at this, and I think that's part of why I like Deadly Class so much, because it was just like basic, regular people. Although then they become, they're kind of assassins. But a lot of just like the interaction between the kids. So even though they're taking all these classes and training, you just really get like. So if you haven't read Deadly Class, man, you are in a treat, because you got all those issues to read. But Gromit's is really good, and I hope we get more, because I think this is a mini series, and it would be awesome if we can get more of that. Okay, then we have Hyde Street #2. This is such an amazing comic, and I don't understand what makes this so. I mean, it's Jeff Johns and Ivan Rice. I mean, I think that's why it's so good. And it blows me away. Where I remember there was a time where people just kind of ripping on Jeff Johns, and man, and I was talking to my friend. I was saying, like, man, Jeff Johns has been consistent. I mean, ever since, like, even the New 52, say what you will about, like, some of the things, like the different discrepancies or differences with Justice League. His Justice League, I mean, it really kicked off. And when he was doing Justice League and JLA, or doing, like, the Dark Side War, man, it was just so good. His Green Lantern, holy, I mean, if I swore on this podcast, I would be like, holy, you know what? Holy fudge. And it's just, he's just been so good. And I think about like some of the other writers, and I don't want to call out anyone by name, but there's been a lot of like strong writers over the year, and then they just kind of, I don't know what it is, where they just, my enjoyment just kind of dips a little bit. Like some of the stories he does, it's like, this isn't, in my opinion, as good as it was at its core. And I there's just like this one writer that I'm thinking about, where I'm just like, what kind of happened with the last few things that they did, and and things happen, and it maybe it's me, but I just feel like some of the stuff's not as acclaimed as it used to be. But Jeff Johns' writing has just been all these ghost machines stories that he's doing, they're really phenomenal, and he's creating like all these different, and it's not like, oh, DC, I got to write a Justice League book, I got to write Green Lantern, I got to do this book or this book. It's like he's creating all these separate universes, and because we got Geiger, and I guess Geiger and Machine Joe, what's his name? Those are like in the same universe ish. Actually, not even really, sort of. But then you got red coat. Now I'm blanking on all the names. I'm like questioning. Is it called red coat, turncoat, red coat? Oh man, it's been a long week, and we're just starting the podcast. But Hyde Street. So Hyde Street, we have Pranky, this little kid, and even this cover is just such an amazing cover. So you see this little scout boy sitting at a counter, and it's like the Norman Rockwell picture. The police officer sitting next to him, but he's tied up, and the whole place is on fire, and there's a dog chomping on an arm. Like, what the heck is going on? So this Hyde Street is you don't ever want to go there. And this Pranky kid, he's something, and I love this comic so much. Then we had, oh man, Rogue Sun. How did I miss that? Well, I'm behind on that. And then I think that was it. So Universal Monsters Frankenstein #4 came out. So this is the final issue, and I mean, if you know the Frankenstein story, you kind of know what's coming. But this was kind of a downer. I was like, oh man. Yeah, not the happiest of endings. So I really like Michael Walsh, his writing and his art is just so good. And then Void Rivals 14 came out. I don't think I've read that since issue like 2 or 3. So I don't even know what's going on there. I'm really curious, and I don't know if I'll ever get caught up. over at Marvel. Marvel, there was not a whole lot, it seemed like, but the sort of question is, did I read everything? We had Amazing Spider-Man 62. This is the 8 deaths of Spider-Man. So, we have Joe Kelly and Ed McGuinness working on this. And it's okay, so how do I feel about this? That's the big question. With Zeb Wells, I'm sure Zeb Wells is a nice guy and everything, and he's done a lot of great stuff. I mean, there's so many like really cool Spider-Man story arcs that he did back when we were doing like the 3 times a week, and they were doing like the rotating creative teams, and that was really cool. Obviously, with this volume, there's been a lot that I haven't been super crazy about, but there's been elements that have been still enjoyable. Don't get me started on Chasm. But now we have a new direction. So it's like, okay, fresh start. Now what's this creative team going to bring to it? And I think there's good and bad about this. One, it's totally different. Because this is not the Spider-Man story that you would be expecting. Part of the problem, I guess, I have is because with Doctor Doom being the Sorcerer Supreme now, because he stole it in a sense. Doctor Doom, I really like Doctor Doom, but I feel like a lot of time he's just like just a wiener. He's like this baby that he wants to get his way the whole time, and so now that he's abusing in a sense, the position that he has, and whatever, he kind of got it fair and square. You should have expected it, but whatever. But now he kind of. He's been really like asserting himself. Like, he goes up to people and he's like, oh, you need to do this. And then he's like, oh, okay, whatever. And so it's just, it's annoying. It's frustrating. But so the cool thing is we have Spider-Man having to use magic. He's not a magic person, obviously, and he's having to learn some stuff, and he is working with astral Doctor Strange. But where is Doctor Strange? I think they said that Doctor Strange is somewhere else, so he's helping Spider-Man through his astral. And that's the weird thing, is like that he can separate himself. So he's doing something else, but he can still split himself, and I don't know how that's even possible. It's like trying to tap your feet and chew gum. I don't know what they say. Or pat your head and rub your tummy. Is that how it works? So Spider-Man's got this new costume. So I'm wondering, does this mean we're going to get a new Funko Pop in this design? Spider-Man's have so many costumes, and that's just the amazing thing. So there are some cool things, but I don't know, some things just off. And we got good art, and I don't know. We'll see. But I mean, it is. In a way, it's a welcome change, but it's also, I guess because it's not the Spider-Man that we know, but that's a good thing, because do we really just want the same thing over and over again? So, yeah, we have all that. We had Blade #2. Is anyone reading? Who's reading this? Should I be reading it? Because this is a Red Band comic. So that means like it's going to be a little more mature or whatever. Dazzler #3. I didn't read this. I really like Dazzler, but the first issue just kind of threw me off, where it just Dazzler on tour and being attacked and all that, and maybe I don't know if I read the second issue, but maybe there's more to it than that. And because the thing is, I really like Dazzler, and yeah, performing should be a big part of it, but I also want her to be on actual adventures or whatever, not just being on stage and then fighting off someone trying to attack her or whatever. So I don't know, maybe I should go back and check those out. Incredible Hulk #19. I was like, okay, I haven't read this in a while. Maybe I should check this out. And I still don't like this stuff. Man, when was the last time I liked the Hulk? And this is a Tony problem. So I really hope other people are enjoying this. My concern was, well, what's going on with this girl? And I don't even remember her name because it's been so long. Is she still trapped in limbo hell or whatever she's at in this figure? We do see her in this issue, but yeah, things haven't improved. So, but also, wait, was it this issue? Oh, because this was I don't remember if this was a double-sized or triple-sized issue. There's an Amadeus Cho story, and I like the character. I didn't like when he became a Hulk because I feel like he just kind of got this attitude and he just kind of felt different and I don't know because just maybe it's just when there was in the was it the Defenders, not the Defenders, the Champions, because he just like gave Kamala like such a hard time, like he's just, or not a hard time, but he's just like a jerk to her. Because then we have She-Hulk story, and this one, it just felt a little off as well. But then the important one, I think the big one, and here's the thing. This is by Benjamin Piercy and Jeff Shaw. Benjamin Piercy, like I wasn't super crazy about his Wolverine run, and that's just whatever my stupid taste. So when I saw, I was like, oh, he's writing this Red Hulk comic. Okay, well, I'm gonna give it a chance to it. And so we get this story here with Thunderbolt Ross, and it's pretty good. I like this, and it's definitely, if you plan that's now, here's the downside is if you're gonna read that story, this kind of sets up where that first issue is going to be when where Thunderbolt Ross finds himself. But so I really like this, and bravo to making Thunderbolt Ross actually kind of tough in a way, because when he's not Red Hulk, spoiler, it's just he's just kind of stuffy, but I hear Benjamin Piercy made him kind of a badass, so I like that. Iron Man #2. You know what? If I'm being honest, I don't like this story arc. It's so wait, who's working this? So this is Spencer Ackerman and Julius Ota. So I guess maybe Julius Ota is doing the art, because Alex Sinclair does a color, and again, Alex Sinclair is one of the nicest people. He's immensely talented. He's the dude that's always like coloring Jim Lee and Scott Williams stuff. But if you ever see him at a convention, man, he's the nicest guy. He's so cool. But this Iron Man's direct, I don't care. The Stark Roxxon War, I feel like we've seen this so many times. One, I cannot stand Roxxon, and we're not supposed to like them. They're just like utterly despicable. And maybe that's a problem because there's so many despicable things in reality now, and this is just like a big reminder. So they're trying to buy out or whatever, like Stark Enterprises or Unlimited or whatever they're called these days, and the board is like on board with this. They're like, yeah, this is going to be good, make us money and all this stuff like that. But it's like they're horrible. They're destroying everything, and the fact that they just like murder, and like they're working with AIM, and they do all these bad things. So how could anyone on the board be like okay with this? And we have Melinda May, which is here. I was like, oh, awesome. That's Ming-Na Wen's character in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So they're actually using her in this comp, doing something with her. But she's even kind of like, well, yeah, we'll see, but maybe I can try to do something from the inside. But it's like, no, you can't. And he's like, when Orcus, she was trying to like fight from the inside when Orcus took over. But he's like, but you didn't really do it. You weren't able to do anything. So basically, Tony's like fighting for the company, and his suit gets stolen, and it's just how many times we see him losing the company, losing the suit, and it's just. I just find it annoying, and yeah, so I'm not looking forward to that. Mystique #2. Now this is like a hot tamale. I don't know what we're gonna call this. This was really good. So Declan Shelby doing the art and the writing. I feel like there's something about this. It just it's in the Marvel universe, but almost in a way it's a little separate, and it's just like super cool. I just really dug it. Mystique's not like one of my all-time favorite characters. Her I got into her solo series, like I think after the fact I started like catching up on it, and there's some cool stuff there. So she does have there's a lot of cool things you can do with her. Even though I don't know, necessarily agree with her attitude on a lot of things, but just a whole spy aspect, and then even like Nick Fury Jr., which I don't care for him, but he's because Shield is kind of back, and he was like stuck behind a desk, and he's like he wants to do something about it, and he's like going out, and he almost gets blown up and everything, and Maria Hill's in charge of he's having to report to her, and then we also see Nick Fury Sr. So it's like it has like everything. But the fact is, I'm not a Nick Fury Jr. fan at all. But I'm totally digging him here. So Declan, he's doing like an amazing job, making me actually like the guy. So good stuff here. You should definitely be reading it. Find a first issue or go to whatever, read them digitally. They're so good. We had Spirits of Vengeance, not reading that. Spider-Boy 13. And this is where I'm confused with this series, because I feel like it's not written for me. It's a 10-year-old kid who's a superhero. So this feels like that could be something for younger readers, because they could be like, oh, this is cool because I'm 10 years old or 12 or whatever, and I can relate. And I really like Spider-Boy's design, the colors, the schemes, whatever. So I mentioned the action figure. I think that actually looks kind of cool, but there's so many things about this that just seems kind of silly, and I think it's supposed to be because it's a little kid. So, and I love Dan Slott's writing, and I've always enjoyed everything he's done, but I just feel like this is kind of like in a different direction, that it's not aimed at me, and it doesn't have to be. But the problem is, when comics cost $5, I don't see. I look at my students, and they're not buying single comics. Every once in a while you see them reading a trade. So it's like, maybe, I don't know what's going on. But then we got this Spider Girl who's actually like a disciple of Bullseye. And, we see her origin, which is kind of cool. And there's like this tournament in Madripoor where Bullseye and this girl are going to enter. And there could be like dire like consequences if they win this thing, because it's like mystical stuff or whatever. So Daredevil, who had trained Spider-Boy at some point, in the past, which now everyone remembers Spider-Boy, which is kind of confusing, but that's how it is. So he's like, we got to go to Madripoor and everything like that. And then they stow away underneath the plane in the cargo hold, which isn't it get like super duper cold down there? And they don't even address that. And he's like, well, you need to call your mom, let her know. Even though he's like, well, I got a test tomorrow. And how long, I imagine it's like a 14-hour flight to Madripoor, maybe less. And then at this tournament, all these people that are like fighting these different, people who got their quote unquote invitation or entry ticket or whatever you want to call it. It's like everyone's like a character and a little kid. And some like super powered, deadly fighter, but they're all adult and a kid, which it's kind of silly, I think, but whatever. That's how it is. But that's fine. Star Wars Battle of Jakku, Republic Under Siege. This is number 2, which is actually number 6 of 12. And this is fine. I do like Dr. Aphra's here, so I didn't mention she showed up at the end of the last issue. But this new dude who wants to kind of like keep the Empire going or take over the Empire, I don't care for him, and we're not supposed to, but I feel like he's too big for his britches or whatever. The fact that he thinks that he's all that, and yeah, it's kind of weird, but that's fine. Ultimate Black Panther number 10. I haven't been reading this mainly because I just don't like what they're doing with Khonshu. It just doesn't make sense to me, and I know I should be reading it, but I just have to pick and choose because of time. Uncanny X-Men number 6. So we're seeing these new kid mutants. They're kind of growing on me a little more. We're seeing more like the I forget her name, the girl with the horse. I'm seeing like her kind of pass. I was like, oh, it's like a little more sympathetic. And even the jerky guy who thinks that he's so cool and can beat everyone and was like standing up against Wolverine, which is just kind of silly. He's grown on me a little bit, and the other two as well. So they're staying at this these people's like house or whatever, and they're like, well, one of the rules, if you're gonna stay here, you got to go to school. So of course they go to school, and there's like the stereotypical jerky kids that are mean to him and everything like that. But then other things, before they go there, Wolverine, I forgot how did he lose his eye, his vision? He's like blindfolded. His eyes aren't healing for some reason. Was it that Sarah Gaunt, whatever her name was, did she do something to him? And then the other thing, the big thing that I do not understand. All the elements are cool here because I loved Rogue and Gambit. The way Gail Simone's writing them is just really really good. I should mention that we have Javier Gardon doing the art, so it's not David Marquez here. But the thing is, Wolverine is calling Rogue Moonbeam, and I think she's calling him Ground Bear or something like that. Where the heck did that come from? It makes no sense that they have these pet names for each other, and it's like, wait, because Rogue is like married to Gambit, so they should have pet names. Why would and Wolverine's never been like, it'd be like, I could see it if Wolverine and had some sort of nickname for Jubilee like that, because he took her in under his wing, and whatever, she was kind of like his sidekick, just kind of like how Kitty Pryde was, or whatever. But he was never like that with Rogue, so it doesn't make sense to me. But whatever. Venom War 5. Looking at that cover, it's like, I feel like, am I supposed to be reading this? Is this like a turning point? I don't know. Then we have West Coast Avengers #1. So this is an interesting new direction. So it's Jerry Duggan, who, as you probably know, aware, I love his stuff. Danny Kim does the art. Arthur Hesley does the colors. So we have, and now here's the thing. So Iron Man here I like compared to Iron Man and Iron Man, but there is some mention of what's going on there. So Tony Stark and Rhodey, they want to start a new West Coast Avengers, and the idea that they want to kind of like rehabilitate like villains and kind of bring them, whatever. So they got this one guy, I forget his name. He's screwing things up and he's putting things at risk. But they got Spider-Woman there, and she's like, "Wait, why am I here? Is it because she had kind of had a questionable past?" And he's like, "Yeah, she's supposed to be like the example that you can turn things around." And then there's also Ultron. It's like, wait, what? Yeah, so there's Ultron that's somehow been redeemed. It's like, okay, the way he's being used, I was like, that's to be kind of cool because he's actually very knowledgeable or has access to a lot of things. It just seems, I'm not going to say anything more, but towards the end of this year, you're like, wait, is this a good idea? You see Tony Stark in his, I guess they call it I never understood why it's called the Silver Centurion costume, even though it's mostly red, not really silver. But he's got that costume, but it's not in the best condition. And then the thing that kind of concerns me is at the end he calls someone, which I won't mention who here, and it's someone that kind of got a bad reputation with it's a mutant, let's just say that. So this might be a spoiler. They kind of got a bad reputation during the recent stuff going down, and I don't like where this person is at because it seems like out of character, but. Maybe we'll see something, with that. So we'll see. But I do like, but the fact having this character in the book, that is cool because I want this character to be in the spotlight. But hopefully this will be something that they can get over. And I guess it makes sense because there's some heavy duty stuff that they had to go through. So there's got to be, and it's like no one thought to like, hey, maybe we should find out if, because they don't have like counseling or anything like that. Maybe that's an off my mind topic we should talk about. I should do soon. At DC, there is Absolute Wonder Woman, #2. I'm digging this. There's some parts with the art, like Steve Trevor just seems off a little bit. He doesn't seem like as rugged as he's supposed to be, and he doesn't have to be, but he's a soldier, and he just seems a little soft. I don't know. I mean, who am I to talk? But there's some interesting things with how things are going on. We got these big monsters and hydras, whatever, attacking the city, and Wonder Woman's there to help. She's talking to Steve's like commanding officer, and he's just typical like blah blah blah, and she's like. She's like, well, I'm going to do this, whether, I'm going to help, you need to, work with me and stuff like that. So it's kind of nice seeing that where, some of these dudes just think that like, oh, I got some brass on my chest or whatever, so I'm in charge of everything. But it's like, no. Justice League Unlimited. So this is number one. So here, this is the interesting thing is, so this is really well written. I like the idea of like all the different Justice League members all at the Watchtower, and it's like, oh, here's a mission. Who's good for this? Because there's this new guy. I think his name is Airwave. I forget. And he arrives there, and he's there's a bunch of people like trying to save this like town and everything that's being attacked by these kind of like terrorists or whatever. And he's like, I want to do something. And they're like, well, no, your power wouldn't help. You would just get in the way. But then, something does happen. So it's like, who's this character? And there is like kind of like a legacy to the character. They're like, what are they going to do with it? So that can be interesting. But I do like the idea here. Although, isn't this what Avengers are? No, I'm kidding. I mean, it's the idea of Justice League Unlimited, the anime series, where it's like you have all these. Everyone's like in the Justice League now, and it makes sense. Why have just like 5 people, 7 people, or whatever, and then use the same people? Because like if you're have a mission out, and sorry, Aquaman, but this is an example I'm using. If you got a mission like whatever, something in the middle of the desert, you don't want Aquaman going out there because while he's tough and everything like that, he's going to dry out. He needs the water and everything like that, so it doesn't really make sense. So you want to pick someone who can be optimal in that environment. And who are you fighting? So so this guy Airwave, he can project like radio waves and stuff like that. That doesn't do any good if there's people like attacking and doing all this whatever. So I like the idea. It makes perfect sense that you are going to try to pick who is the best suited for that job. And that's like what we're seeing in, I forget the other Avengers comic. Does it have a different name? But yeah, so we have that. Then there's Superman number 20. This is hot tamale stuff too. I don't know why. I don't really eat tamales, and I don't know why I'm saying hot tamale all the time. But this is hot stuff. I'm the idea of Lois as Superwoman. Spoiler: she's on the cover. It's not a secret. We still don't know how. And, it's been teased that we're going to find out. But I don't know how I feel about it. I mean, it's interesting and fine. I can be okay with that. I have nothing against it. I don't think she needs to be depowered. It almost makes sense in a way because that way, she doesn't have to, not that she has to rely on Superman all the time, but if she ever does get targeted, her strong-willed attitude can only get her so far when, like, if someone like Doomsday comes after her, what is she going to do? So we do have Doomsday, and there's some flashbacks like, okay, this isn't good. But then we also have this timekeeper, like some interesting developments there. It's like, what does this all mean? So yeah, there's some cool stuff happening here. Unlike Action Comics 1077, which is written by Mark Waid, and it's like Mark Waid's other stuff, everything has been like stellar. So I don't know what it is about this. It's just like all this Phantom Zone stuff. It's just, I find it kind of boring and everything like that. Yeah, it's just, yeah, because he was Superman did end up on Krypton in the past, and now he's out. But like the whole integrity of the Phantom Zone's at stake because there's this, I don't even remember the alien villain dude, but he wants to target the sun now and destroy the sun and all of Earth's that solar system. Yeah, okay, whatever. Detective Comics 1061. My screen is like way too small. I can't read. So this is crazy stuff that's going on. Like, so Tom Taylor and Mikkel Janin, gorgeous, great team. I mean, Tom Taylor's just amazing. Like what he did. His Nightwing is going to be like, it's so good. It's going to be like one of the top runs in like Nightwing's history. People are always be thinking about this. So now he's taking on Batman, and Mikkel Janin's art is just so like bam. It's like just so good, and there's some interesting things here. So someone from Bruce's past, she's like, oh, I've been working on this stuff. There's this new drug, but it's super expensive and it can help you live longer. And so he's kind of thinking about that. And it seems like kind of questionable. And it's interesting that they're really kind of questioning, and as they should, because Batman's been doing this for a while, and he's sustained so many injuries. And it's like, it doesn't matter how much he's trained, whatever, his body can only take so much. How much like scar tissue and stuff does he have? And so then he's like, well, should I do this? And he actually has a talk with Superman about this. Like, I don't feel right doing this. And Superman's like, yeah, because you feel like that if you're doing this, it's not right if you're taking this miracle whatever thing when others can't because they don't have the luxury, they can't afford it and stuff. So it's a kind of interesting. Like, what's because I feel like while this could be a good way to, because it's not like it's going to give him superpowers, whatever, but it's just going to kind of strengthen up his body and revitalize him, which is what he needs to keep going after decades and decades, in our time. But I feel like there's got to be some catch. It can't be that easy. So something's got to happen. Then we have Nightwing 120. So this new story, new direction, Dan Waters, it's Dexter Story's doing the art. It's definitely interesting, and they're setting up some stuff to give Nightwing problems. It's just and it's supposed to be like that. So they're really trying to. There's like this high tech police force now that's been approved in a way in Bloodhaven, and they're horrible. They're despicable, and that's supposed to be the problem to make things, make Nightwing's life more difficult. And I get it. I don't like it, but we're not supposed to like it because we want Nightwing to triumph and overcome all this. So we'll see. Then there's Black Canary, Best of the Best. This is I'm not sure how I feel about this. So this is written by Tom King. Ryan Sook does the art. So we have Black Canary. She's agreed to go in this fight. She's going to fight it like in a ring against Lady Shiva. And it's like, wait, what's going on? And she's not even really training with anyone. And then we find out like why she agreed to do this fight, and which is kind of questionable. It's like this doesn't really make sense because there's so many other things that Dinah could have done. I don't know. We'll see where this is going to go. And also she can't use her power. So Black Canary is supposed to be an amazing hand-to-hand fighter, but she also has her powers, which can it's a great asset. She's not allowed to use it here, so I don't know if she can. Can she stand up against Lady Shiva? But maybe she's not supposed to. I don't know. We'll see. Batman Long Halloween. This is issue. I can't see what issue this is. This is so. What's interesting here is I'm digging this. I'm so glad Jeff Loeb is back is writing. I enjoy his stuff. And we have Hush 2 coming soon with him and Jim Lee and everyone. But what's interesting is James Gordon Jr. was kidnapped like on, I think it was like Halloween, and now it's like Christmas Eve, and there's no sign of him. So it's like, holy crap, that's a long time. And it's like, what's going on? Is Two-Face, is he still around? Harvey Dent, and who's yeah. And it's interesting, like mentioning the Falcons and all that, especially after watching the Penguin, so we really get to, reminisce with the characters, know who they are, and yeah, so it's good. Green Arrow number 18. So this is Chris Condon. Oh my gosh, I can't see anything. My screen is just way too small. And there's some interesting things here. Yeah, because there's some stuff from Ollie's past, like some business stuff, and like who they're dealing with, and some we do get to see him kind of like stand up and do what he does best. But yeah, I mean it's fine. It's not bad. It's not horrible. It's it wouldn't be like the first comic I would read. Like, oh, I got to read Green Arrow because I can't wait to see what happens next. I'm just kind of waiting to see where this is going to go, but that's fine. Because I mean, what it comes down to really depends on who's writing it. Green Arrow has never been like my top favorite character, so we'll see. What kind of magic can he do to win me over? Because then there's the Flash 15. I flipped through this, and I just couldn't bring myself to read it. And Wally's got a new one. I hate that Barry Allen is depowered. It's like we got to do something with that because that just is stupid. But then Wally's got a new costume, but it's like why? And I get characters want to change their thing, but it just seems wrong. Yeah. Okay. Then we had Power Girl 15. I was trying to read this, and we get this villain. We see their origin, and I actually I don't think I finished reading this because I just yeah. So that's all I'll say. I don't know what's going on with Power Girl. It's just it seems like something's been kind of missing. I don't know. And then that's all I read because there's Batman Brave and the Bold, which I haven't been reading that because I could be totally wrong and I'm missing out on something. But I assume this is like the anthology book where there's like a bunch of just different characters and different stories and it just, to me, it feels like a lot of times nothing really, there's no repercussions for those stories, which is kind of a bad thing to looking at because I do applaud the fact that this is allowing other people to write some of these characters, which is really cool. Because like Joey Esposito, who's a great writer, and he just kind of needs that like shot to do stuff, and he's written in here. So I have no idea what's going on in there, and part of it is because I've discussed my situation with DC recently, and I don't have the luxury, the time to check out everything if that's how they want. They don't care if I'm reading it, is what it comes down to. So I'm going to be realistic about that. So, so I don't know. And even like, Batman, Santa Claus, Silent Night, whatever. I would have read this just out of fun or nostalgia or whatever, but I didn't. So I don't know if it's any good. So you can tell me. What I can tell you, though, is that is going to be comics for the week. Okay, Superman and Lois, season 4, episode 9, To Live and Die Again. So we're almost done. It's crazy. It's crazy how good this show is. When we saw this dude as Superman on Supergirl, I'm like, I don't know, something. But this is like he is Superman. I mean, this is who Superman should be. Just everything, it just oozes out of him. This is like everything that was wrong, or this shows everything that was wrong with the Snyder Cut. It's like Superman should be kind and compassionate and caring and not just had anger and although we're seeing Superman push to the limits here, and I just feel like I'm just so blown away when it's like Superman's gonna have twin kids, like twin teenage boys. I'm like, are you serious? But they're doing such a good job. So let's just get into it. So at the farm, the boys asked Dad if he's seen the news. It's all over the internet because like the headline is Superman losing his powers? So Jordan's like, how did they find out? And Clark's like, Luthor, he must have gotten the scans from John Henry's suit. So Jordan's like, well, that proves he stole it. Clark's like, well, not exactly. And Jonathan's like, well, who cares about proof? It's like, he stole it to kill you. It's like, we need to take him out. And Clark's like, that's not how we do things. And he's like, well, maybe it should be. And he's like, no. He's like, I stooped to Luthor's level once. I'm not going to let anyone make the same mistake. Understand? So he's just really firm about that. Then Lois comes in her phone, and they whoever she's talking to cuts the call abruptly. So Clark's like, was that another advertiser? She's like, it's a third one. She's like, because of that Godfrey interview, everyone says they believe me, but they don't want to be associated with me right now. She's like, how am I supposed to run a newspaper without ads? And then Johnson's like, see? It's like, Luthor's coming after Mom too. We can't just sit here, Dad. And he's like, enough. He's like, I do not need your help with this, okay? So then she's like, boys, why don't you go get something to eat? I want to talk to your dad. And it's like, so she's gonna I need to talk to your dad. He's in trouble. It's like this is ridiculous. So they leave, and she's like, they're just worried about you. He's like, I know, I get it, but so what's he supposed to do? He's like, oh yeah, it's okay. Let's just kill a man. No, that's not this again. It's not the Snyderverse. he asked her if she's seen an article, and she's like, "Well, yeah, I've seen it." And he's like, the whole world knows that he can't do what he used to. She's like, "We'll deal with it. We'll do, like we always do, one thing at a time." And he asked, "Well, what's he supposed to do?" And she says, "Luther's just getting into his head. It's what he's been doing to her since he got out of prison." Clark's like, "Okay." He's like, "Maybe it's time to get into his head." So outside a diner, there's a bunch of people, like photographers. They want to pick soda boys, and they have like signs, "We love Jonathan, Jordan," whatever. They go in, and there's a bunch of like Superman figures, mugs, T-shirts, all this stuff. So Vicky May, whatever, she smiles. She's like, "Oh, sit wherever you want." So I guess she's just selling like bootleg Superman stuff, and she's totally okay with that. There's a booth by the window, but there's a bunch of people outside, so they decide to sit at the counter. And because someone else comes in, she's like, "No, paying customers only." But it's like, why don't someone come in and like, "Yeah, I'll have a coffee," but whatever. So they sit at the counter, they look at the menu, and one of the boys are like, "Oh, they named a tea after Mom," because it's like her favorite tea. And then Jonathan's like, "Jonathan's French dip." He's like, "Oh yeah, that's cool." And Jordan's like, "Oh, there's nothing with my name." Jonathan's like, "Yeah, there is," and he points to it. So he's like, "Jordan's loaded curly fries." And then Jordan's like, "On the kids menu?" And then Jonathan says, like, "This feels wrong." It's like, knowing what we know. And Jordan's like, he thinks he's talking about like the fries and naming, food without permission. Jordan's like, "No, I'm talking about, everyone eating and going about their business when we know how dangerous Luther is." And Jordan's like, "Well, they don't have to worry about it. It's not their job to fight him." Jonathan's like, "Well, that's why we have to help Dad." He's like, "We have to step up." And then Vicky comes in with their specials like on the house. And Jordan looks at his. So the fries are like in this cup, and there's like a goggled face, him or whatever on there. And then the fries stick out the top, and it's supposed to be like his hair. At the Gazette, Lois, she stands looking at her board with all of Luther's stuff and pictures of Amanda and whatever. Then Amanda walks in. Lois is like, "What are you doing here?" And Amanda's like, "Oh, you're being sued for defamation." She's like, "And this is a bill for Lex's window. They're specialty pieces." Lois is like, she's like, "You have no chance of winning." Amanda's like, "Well, based on the mood right now, I think I can." And Lois says that, she's like, "I have the truth on my side." And Amanda asks if she thinks that people really care about the truth. She's like, "All people want is a good story." Then she looks at Lois's board, because it's like in plain sight. As soon as you walk in, you see it. And she's like, "That's wrong." And Lois is like, "What? You're saying Otis wasn't murdered?" And Amanda's like, "Oh, he was definitely murdered." She's like, "But I should be higher." And then Lois is like, "Oh, are you saying you and Lex are a team now? That's a cute story you've told yourself. The truth is, Lex doesn't do teammates. And in the end, the truth does matter." So Amanda just looks at her and she's like, "Have a nice day, Lois." She starts walking out. And then she's like, "By the way, you can stop looking for Cheryl or Gretchen or whatever you're calling her. Something tells me you're not going to find her." So it's like, why isn't this like Lois should be recording all this stuff? But anyways, so Lex is told that this is a pretty dramatic move. And he's like, "Are you questioning my judgment?" This lawyer dude, whatever, assistant's like, "No, of course not." It's like, "I have the agreement right here." And then whoosh, Superman appears. And Lex is like, "Go away." But at first I thought he was talking to Superman, but I guess he's talking to the lawyer dude or whoever. And then Lex is like, "Are you here to appeal to me as a father again?" And Superman's like, "I'm here to tell you you'll never hurt another person." Tough talk coming from someone flying around with a 60-year-old heart. And Superman's like, "Worked just fine the last time you were in Smallville. How's your eye?" Because there's like a big gash by it, or scar. He's like, "In case you haven't noticed, things have changed." And Superman's like, "Why? Because you shaved and put on a suit? Seems to me you're playing dress up. Or maybe like Amanda McCoy is playing dress up with you." "I thought you might be here to talk about a different suit." And Superman's like, "I have a feeling that was her idea too. Having to interview as a distraction, it's not really your style." "You don't know my style." "Well, do you even have one with someone else calling the shots?" And he gets up. "I don't need her to take you out." And Superman just grins. He's like, "You keep telling yourself that." He's like, "You're no match for what's next. Your boys, they're in training wheels. And Lois, there's nothing she can do. I'm coming after everything you have ever loved." See, again, why isn't he recording this? Take a page from his book. "I'm coming after everything you ever loved, and I will rip it all away, just like I ripped out your beating heart." It's like, you didn't rip it out, Doomsday did. or bizarre or whatever. So Superman just looks at him and he's like, enjoy your freedom, Lex. It's running out. And then he looks down and he smirks. Nice tie. And whoosh, Superman slowly walks back to his desk. And then he takes off his tie and jacket and tosses it on the floor. So he's got into his head. At the Gazette, Lois starts tearing the picture down off the board. Clark walks in and sees her. He's like, you okay? He's like, something happened while I was gone? And Lois like, Amanda McCoy came with a notice that Lex's army of lawyers are going to sue us out of existence. He's like, okay, so we'll find a way to stop them. And she's like, how? Cheryl Kimball is dead. He's like, what? Lois like, Amanda all but confirmed it. And everyone else is either dead or lawyered up. We've been at this for months and we have nothing to show for it. We've lost. He's like, whoa. It's like, we've not lost. After everything we've been through, your cancer diagnosis, treatment, the surgery, I died. It's because Luthor killed you. Even Superman wasn't safe from that lunatic. And we're still here, together. Who does Luthor have? Amanda McCoy? You and me, we're unstoppable. Chapter 7 of your masterclass. How does this start? She's like, Clark, please. He's like, come on, it's my favorite part. She's like, when you hit a wall, trust your gut and retrace your steps. And he's like, and go back to the beginning. She's like, you're a dork, whatever. He's like, that's why you love me. So then they hear cheering as the boys exit the diner. She's like, that's going to take some getting used to. He says that Lex is confirmed that he's coming after them all now. He's like, we need to make sure the boys are ready for whatever his next move is. He's like, call me if you need me. So he leaves. She goes back to the board. And then she like holds up Lex's mugshot. She says to herself, back to the beginning. Outside, the boys are like signing stuff, taking selfies with fans. Clark watches from across the street. Then he says, like in normal voice, he's like, hey boys, we've got to talk. So they hear, and another's like, there he is. And he's like, can I get a moment with my guys? And he like smiles, and then he's like thanks, because they listen, they stay back, whatever. So he tells the boys, he's like, we need to go to the fortress. And Jordan's like, right now? And they like, he looks at like some girls standing behind him, whatever. And Clark's like, well, might as well give the people what they want. So they look at each other, and then all three, zoom, people cheer. It's not all girls are, I guess I should say, but that shot, they just showed girls looking at him. It's raining Metropolis. Lex standing, staring out the window. Amanda comes in. She's like, hey, babe. She's like, I know you hate these things. Showing your face should placate the board for a while. And he doesn't say anything. She's like, is something wrong? I've been thinking about your role in the company. He gives her an envelope, and he's like, it's a gesture of appreciation. So she looks at it. She's like, this makes me the largest shareholder in Luthor Corp after me. She's like, I don't know what to say. I built this company from nothing. You took it to new heights. After today, you'll be one of the richest people in the world. And she's like, thank you. Like you said, you earned every penny of it. So she goes to like kiss him. And she's like, I guess we do make a good team. So he doesn't really kiss her back. And he's like, Bash will facilitate the board's approval. You shouldn't have any issues. And she's like, you're not coming? Milton has something to show me. At the fortress, Clark flips through like the holo fighting opponents. Like, they have like hard holographic fighting, whatever, bots thing. So one of the boys, I don't know which one, says like, how's fighting reruns going to help them? And Clark's like, it won't. But he mentions when John Henry came, he was dead set on killing him. And they're like, we remember. And he's like, what you don't know is how close he came to succeeding. He's like, John Henry's war suit is as fast as me. It has high-tech weaponry, and it's nearly as strong as me at my best. And now Luthor has it. And then Jordan's like, and now you're not as strong as you used to be. And he's like, just focus and give it your best shot. He's like, who's first? So Jordan goes, he charges, the holo, John, whatever, Steel, dodges and hits him. Jonathan follows, it dodges and hits him with the hammer. So Jordan uses heat vision, it blocks it with the hammer, reflects it back at him. Jonathan uses freeze breath, but it throws a hammer like at his chest. And then it fires like a series of rockets that keeps like Jonathan back. And then this continues against both of them for a bit. So then Clark kind of stops watching, and then he finally is like, stop. And they're like, Dad, we got this. He's like, I just wanted to see where you were at. It's like, why don't you both go home, and I'll meet you guys later. So they whoosh away, and then Clark just thinks. At Strikers, Lois meets with Mannheim and Bruno Mannheim. So he's sitting at a table. She thanks him for agreeing to see him, and he says that she looks healthy. Lois says that doctor something, whatever, wouldn't go as far as to say that she's cancer-free, but her treatments are done. And Bruno's like, She's a great doctor. Lois is like, everyone at your hospital has been very good to me. He's like, I'm glad for you. And I'm sure Peja would be too. She's like, I'm sorry for your loss. Despite everything, Peja was a really good friend to me, and I never could have gotten through to chemo without her. He's like, that means a lot. But why are you really here? And she's like, Luther. He keeps coming after my family. And he's like, you're the one who let him out of jail. What'd you expect? She's like, he didn't kill Boss Moxie. I didn't have a choice. He's like, you did. You just made the wrong one. She's like, that's not true. Peja warned you, told you that he was a devil. But no, you had to go and experience hell for itself. She's like, I couldn't live with putting him away for something he didn't do. How's that working out for you? She's like, this isn't about me. It's about my family. Why do you think we set up Luther in the first place? What he's doing to you, he was doing to South Metropolis for years, making people offers like they actually had a choice. People in the suicide slums were crying out for help long before you and Superman took notice. She's like, you're right. We should have done more. And I promise we will learn from all that and do better. But right now, I'm asking for your help. You and that husband of yours, you only give a damn now because it's affecting your family. So he calls a guard, and she's like, Luther isn't going to stop with my family. If we don't stop him now, he's going to cause a lot of problems and pain for people, including Hobbs Bay. He will destroy everything good you have built there. He's like, you can't want that. I know Peja wouldn't. Don't you bring her into this. Then what about Mateo? He's coming after my boys. You think he won't go after yours? And he tells the guard, he's like, hang on. He's like, he's going to stay. He's like, what exactly do you want from me? She's like, you put Luther away for 17 years with a lie. Help me put him away for good with the truth. So Luther's like looking at the suit, and he says it looks the same. Milton's like, on the outside. On the inside, it's a different story. He talks about how he like upgraded the interface, added like wireless connection to Luther satellites. The armor's been infused with kryptonite, so the closer Superman gets, the weaker he becomes. And he's like, is that it? So then Milton mentions like kryptonite screws to dig into his chest and explode that old man heart of his. He's like, if you want to kill the Man of Steel, this is how you do it. You're welcome. By the way, you never served in the military, correct? He's like, no, why? I recovered a deleted Captain Luther file in the directory. John Henry was such a hack. Like, there is one other thing you should see. The DoD was working on a Project Doomsday. And Luther's like, that sounds like a weapon. It's definitely a weapon, but not theirs, one of yours. So Files comes up on the Bizarro Superman, and he's like, I wondered where you've been. Mannheim talks about someone named Darius Chapel, and Lois like, where's he now? And Bruno's like, well, what's left of him is at the bottom of Hobbs Bay. And she's like, is there anyone with an axe to grind against Luther who isn't dead? And Bruno's like, Luther doesn't leave loose ends. And she's like, there's got to be someone. Mannheim says that this is who Luther is. He uses people and he throws them away. Mannheim says that he cares about his people. Then Lois is like Cheryl Grimble. And he's like, hold on. He's like, Luther killed Grimble? And she's like, I have reason to believe so. Why? Did you know her? He's like, a long time ago. Cheryl was sharp as a tack. She had connections to a bunch of heavy hitters. Introduced them to Luther so he could start to build his empire. She's like, then her contacts became his contacts. And Bruno's like, and he didn't need her anymore. And then she's like, until he did, he had her assume an alias, Gretchen Kelly, to seduce my dad. And Bruno's like, to do something like that for someone who loves you? That's low, even for Luther. She's like, hold on a minute. Cheryl was in love with Luther? And Bruno's like, they were an item back in the day. She thought she could change Luther. I think he might have had a hand in her believing that. She's like, I think there's a pattern, that the pattern is repeating itself. Bruno's like, thing about a pattern, it always ends the same. So then she puts her hand on his. She's like, thank you for your help, Bruno. She's like, I really appreciate it. So she gets up and he's like, Lois. She's like, I'm glad Superman's back. Tell him he's still got work to do. And she like nods. So Clark asks Holo Lara, how long until the boys get to the level he used to be? And she says the boys are not him. And he's like, how long? She said that she's afraid it may never happen. He's like, well, what if we change the training? She's like, it would make no difference. Their limitations are genetic. It's like, no half Kryptonian could be what you were. So he's like, he says that he's their father, so he's supposed to protect them. And she's like, you have your entire life, or their entire lives. So he says that his powers are failing right now. He needs, right when he needs protecting the most. And she says that she understands his frustrations, that he reminds her of his father. And Superman's like, but he did protect me. You both did. You sent me here. And she's like, and that was the hardest decision we ever made. When Krypton was dying, Jor-El and I spent several waking nights trying to find a way to save our planet. He refused to give up. Eventually, we had to accept our fate. Fighting wasn't going to keep you safe. So the boys are talking home. Jonathan says that Dad gave up too quickly, that he would have stayed there all day. Jordan's like, well, he saw what he needed to see. And, Mom and Dad told him so many times that he wasn't ready. And, Jonathan, he's like, oh, don't, it's like, please don't make this another one of your pity parties. Jordan's like, I'm not. He's like, but sometimes Dad is right. He's like, we have to accept what we can and can't do. And see, that's the point. It's like, it doesn't matter that his powers are failing or now. He's freaking Superman. He's been doing this since before they were born. So I think he knows a thing or two, but they just assume that they know better than he does. So Jonathan's like, fine. He's like, maybe we can't stop the suit. So he asks, does Jordan, does he think Dad can? And Jordan's like, well, I don't know. And he's like, you heard Dad. He's like, he could barely stop it when he was at his best. Now he's not. How can he beat it? How could anyone? Lois talks. We see Lois talking. I think it sounds like General Hardcastle, and who says that it was quite a risk she took. How did she know it would work? And Lois says that the night that it killed her dad, it looked right at her, almost like it knew her, and she realized in some way it does. So that person, that monster once was, cared for her, or another version of her. And then Luthor stops the video. So he's watching. This is all recorded in John Henry's suit, which is kind of creepy. So Luthor's like, he's like, I know where it is. And Milton's like, great, we can make sure to never go there. And Lex says, is the suit ready? Milton says he just needs a few more hours to do something. And Lex says, send it to me. He's like, I'm going to Smallville. I guess he's just going to be able to wear it and use it with zero training. Like, no, like, how do I even turn it on? It's like, nope, he's just going to put it on and be able to do it. So Milton's like, why would you want to go back to Smallville? He's like, to visit an old friend. So Amanda and Bash head to Luthor Court. He's impressed that she got him, back on track. And she says that, he's putting some things behind him. And then Lois pops out and it's like, Luthor doesn't put anything behind him. But, you should know that by now. And Amanda tells Bash, just tell the board she'll be right there. So Amanda asks if she's there about the lawsuit. And Lois is like, no, I'm here to warn you that you're in danger. So Amanda starts walking past Lois. And then she's like, how much you know about Cheryl Kimball? It's like, did you know that she was the old you? So she turns on. She's like, I think you're giving Cheryl way too much credit. And Lois is like, maybe. But did you know Lex was in love with her? Or at least Cheryl thought so before she realized Lex is incapable of loving anyone. And Amanda's like, that was a long time ago. And Lois is like, but the pattern is the same. Lex kept Cheryl close until he got everything he needed from her. And then, well, we both know what he used her for in the end. Amanda's like, Cheryl was in way over her head. Lex does nothing but reward me. And she's like, with money? You really think Lex cares about that? He could give you all the money in the world because it doesn't matter to him. But ask him for something that matters and he will throw you away. Look at what he did to his own daughter. Lex doesn't care about you, Amanda, and I think deep down you know that. And she's like, are you finished now? Then she's like, ask Luthor about Cheryl. That should tell you everything you need to know. So then Amanda goes to Milton. She's like, where's Lex? And he's like, oh, I thought you were his handler now. And he's like, as far as I know, he's headed back to the cow patty factory. And she's like, Smallville? Did he say why? And Milton's like, not with any words, but pretty sure it has something to do with that. And Doomsday's on the screen. And she's like, it's in Smallville? And he's like, Lex seems to think so. She's like, but that's not part of the plan. So he turns and looks at her. It doesn't take genius to know you're not the one in charge here. But also, take it from a genius. So she just leaves. Lois is rearranging her board. Clark comes in, and she said he was right. And if she can get Amanda to flip on him, then she realizes there's something's bothering Clark. She's like, things didn't go well. He's like, the boys are nowhere near ready, and my mom thinks that they never will be. She's like, no offense, but your parents have been wrong multiple times. I mean, Jor-El told you we'd never have kids. He's like, this is different. They're limited by their human DNA. She's like, then figure a workaround. He's like, we don't have time. Luther could come after us at any minute. Then she's like, then why are you talking to me, Clark? You need to stop worrying about Jordan and Jonathan, what they can't do, and figure out what they can. So the boys are playing video game. John says, he's like, I'm tired of playing video games. And Jordan's like, why? Because you lost 3 times in a row? He's like, probably all the French dips. Clark comes in. He's like, oh, from Vicky Mays? He's like, that's one of my favorite things on the menu. And then he looks at Jordan. He's like, and the fries. And he's like, about earlier. And they're like, forget it. We're not ready. And he's like, no, you're not. But that's not a reason to stop trying. That was my bad. So what? We should go back to the fortress and train? Clark's like, maybe we can do something a little different this time. So there's somewhere, I don't know if it's like football field or something like that, because it looks like there's like some bleachers or something, but there's like hay bales. He's like, when I was a kid, I didn't know anyone else with powers. When I was learning how to use them, I did it alone. I trained at the fortress alone. Everyone I saved, alone. No matter who I fought, I was alone. That was all I ever knew. And Jordan's like, wow, that's pretty sad. And Jonathan's like, yeah, do you need a hug or something? So they're so sarcastic. And then he's like, all I'm saying is you two have always had each other. He's like, now that Jonathan has powers, you have each other again. That's your strength. I say together, you two can be better than I ever was alone. And Jonathan's like, you really think that? He's like, I do. We just have to get you there. And then whoosh, he's like zips past him. He's like, we'll do this again, only this time, you two against me. I want you to work as a team and land a punch. And he's like, oh, it's on, Pops. So Lois is still at the Gazette, and she sees Luther drive up in his stupid truck, and she grabs her coat. She walks out. Clark told you never to come back. I'm just here for one last thing. This will all be over soon enough. And she's like, what's that supposed to mean? He just looks at her. Goodbye, Lois. And he goes into the hotel. So then, at first, Amanda, some time must go by, because Amanda arrives, she knocks on his room door, and she's like, walks in. When were you going to tell me you found it? He's like, you should be in Metropolis. She's like, were those shares just to distract me? He's like, I told you, you earned those shares. She's like, this was not part of the plan. You cannot control that thing. And then he's like, it doesn't matter. And she's like, then why are you here? I gave this town a chance, and they chose him and Lois. She's like, so you're going to what? Unleash that thing on Smallville? And he's like, I offered them millions, and they spit in my face. They have to pay for what they did. And she kind of like closes, like, oh, like rolls her eyes. She's like, you told me that this was over once we got rid of Superman and Lois Lane. Now you want to wipe out a whole town? Do you realize how crazy that sounds? That was never part of the plan. Maybe not your plan. She's like, we're partners. You can't just, I can do whatever I want. I am in control, not you. And she just like stares at him. And then she's like, is this what you did to Cheryl Kimball? Make her feel something for you and then you throw her away? Who have you been talking to? She's like, is any of this with us even real? And he's like, Lois, she's been poisoning the well again. And Amanda's just like, answer the question. He just takes out his phone and calls Milton. Is it ready? Send it. And then the call ends. He's like, we're done here. She's like, don't do this. And then whoosh, the suit smashes like through the ceiling, and she kind of ducks back. And then he backs up, and it goes all around him, except for his head, of course, so we can see his stupid face. And she's like, Lex, please don't do this. She's like, I know how this ends. If that were true, you wouldn't be here. The helmet goes on. He flies through the skylight. But again, how does he know? How does he know how to? I'm looking at one of my cats. How does Lex know how to control the suit? He's just like, shut up, dude. So he flies to the mines. Doomsday is using his fire breath. I guess he's like trying to blast through a tunnel or something like that. Hello, old friend. Seems you lost your way. You and I were the same. We were created by pain. And we see like Lex's mom beating him with a belt, and then Lex torturing Bizarro. It gave us purpose, made us strong. You understood that before, but she made you confused. Forget why you're here. I can fix that. Get you back on your path. Are you ready to die for me once more? So it just seems so silly that they're both the same because they were both beaten and made stronger or whatever like that. But it's like Does that mean like he still loves his mom because she was horrible to him, and so this monster is supposed to be friendly with him because he's literally killing him over and over, and it probably hurts. Jordan goes at Clark. He grabs him, like turns him, like tosses him in the air. He goes flying. And then he basically does like the same thing to Jonathan. Then he looks at his watch. They both return. He's like, you guys are trying to hit me, right? So they lunge at him. He zips behind him. He's like, maybe I need to explain how this works again. And they're like out of breath. We're just taking it easy on you, old man. And Jonathan's like, yeah, it must be close to your bedtime. And then Clark zips like behind them, grabs both their arm, kind of like bends their wrists, so they're like, ah. Then they hear a doomsday roar. And Jordan's like, it's coming from the mines. And Clark's like, go into town and find your mom. He's like, they're like, but he's like, if that thing gets out, you need to keep everyone safe. So he like opens the shirt. He's got his costume and of course takes off. At the Gazette, Amanda walks in. She's like, you are right. Lux is out of control. He's never going to stop. And Lois like, what's he doing in Smallville? She's like, he found that monster. It's here. And then Lois like, the mines. He's trying to go home. And Amanda's like, he wants to destroy this town. He's going to unleash that thing on everyone here. So in the mines, Lex is like, I killed you before, but this time it's going to be special. He starts like shooting missiles at it, and Superman arrives. What have you done? Just finishing what I started. So he like takes off. Superman tries going to help Doomsday, but then there's like this explosion. So I guess because like the missiles are just kind of like ching, ching, like sticking in him. So then Doomsday, there's like all this rubble, after explosion. Doomsday like explodes out. He like flies away. We just see like a fist. We don't really get a look at him. Lois is standing on the street, and the boys land to tell her that the thing is back. And she's like, where's your father? And they say that he went to the mines to try to stop it. And then it lands in the street. People are screaming. So now it finally looks more like proper comic book Doomsday with like more spikes on his shoulder and its face and like its chin. Because before, I always thought it looked a little silly because it's like it had the small head. And I don't know about this like whole furnace thing, like the flames in it or fire like under in its chest or whatever. But now it actually looks like Doomsday. So Jonathan's like, what happened to it? Then Lois tries talking to it, and they try stopping her. She's like, listen to me. Jonathan's like, this isn't like last time. And she's like, you know me. I am not your enemy. And then it breathes in and shoots out fire. The boys zip Lois to safety like across the street. Then they ask her if she's okay, and she's like, it didn't recognize me. She's like, there's nothing I can do. Then they hear Dad coming, and they like smile. So she says that he's going to need them to get everyone to safety. Superman flies at it. They smash through like the bus terminal building or whatever. And then Jordan goes into like the diner, tells our people, he's like, go out the back. But then he sees Vicky like sitting behind the counter, like on the floor. She's like freaking out. And then he goes up to her. He's like, it's okay. And he grabs a mug, blows, like makes it ice cold. He tells her that whenever he has had a panic attack, it helped him to hold on to something cold. So he tells her, he's like, look at me. He tells her to breathe. And she's like, better? And he like hears something. He's like, okay, close your eyes. And then he like shields her. Superman goes like flying through like one side of the diner, like out through the other. Denise is watching from the store, and she sees like smoke and like fire from the next block over. Then this SUV comes flying through the air, like headed right for her, like in the store. And she just stares at it, and she's just like frozen, and she just like closed her eyes. Then Jonathan catches it, and she's kind of like wide-eyed, just like in shock. And he's like, are you guys okay? Because there's some customers in there. She manages, she's like, yeah. And he's like, he tells her to get to safety. Superman and Doomsday are fighting in the air. Lex is watching from higher up, because this is like, Lex is so cool. He's not even doing anything. And why do you have this stupid suit? Just so you can sit and watch. You're such a like scared little baby. You can't do anything. Milton tells Lex that he thinks he doesn't think anything can kill that thing, and Lex like, not for good. And Milton's like, does that mean you're coming back? He's like, not yet. This time I want to watch Superman die with my own eyes. So again, basically, even with this superior suit, Lex sucks so much that he can't stop Superman. So he still needs someone else to do it for him. And even the fact that he needs Milton to design the suit. I thought he was supposed to be this genius. He can't do anything. So Lois is telling people to keep moving. Then she's Clark comes like crashing close by. The boys like arrive too, and Superman like struggles to get up, and she's like, Clark? And they're like, Dad? And he like looks at them. He's like, I love all of you. I always, rah, whoosh, Doomsday grabs them and they go flying away. And that's the end of the episode. So we got one more episode. Maybe he's going to, the ultimate sacrifice. I mean, isn't that how Superman Doomsday ends, with them killing each other? And maybe, that will finally be the end. That's how it'll end the series. And then the boys will have to step up and take over. I hope not. That's it. One more to go. All right, with Silo, Season 2, Episode 3, Solo. This was like a longer episode. This was like 57 minutes. I think the last ones were like 40-something. So it's like, whoa. So at the other silo, the dude's like, hey, what's your name? And I saw this clip, and I'm like, holy crap, what they just revealed, like this part. So she's like, Juliet. And he's like, Juliet, like to play? And she's like, yeah. Is that a thing here too? And he's like, yeah. She's like, where are you from? And she's like, I came from the outside, from another silo. He's like, what silo? There's 50 friggin' silos. And she's like, 50? He's like, yeah, this is 17. So the closest ones are 15, 16, and 18. So how far did you walk? And she's like, I don't know. Like, where was the sun? And she's like, I don't. She's like, look, who are you? And she's like, hey, no, wait, look. I want to talk, but you're going to have to, you have to give me something. My name is Solo. She's like, Solo? He's like, yes. And she's like, Solo what? Just Solo, because I'm in here all by myself, so I'm Solo. And no one forced the people out. They chose to leave. And when they did, it was a nice day. Everyone was smiling, but then that dust started to blow again. And I think the poison went away for a bit, and then it came back, and there was a lot of it, and that's when they all died. And she's like, but the people who go out to clean, they're dead in 3 minutes. So how did they survive longer than that? I don't know. How did you? She's like, I had a suit on, and hey, did you get sent out like Ron? And she's like, Ron? Who's Ron? Ron Tucker, the cleaner who did clean. He thought it was safe outside. He wanted to go out, but when he did, he didn't clean. He wrote lies in the dirt on the lens, and then he went around the corner out of sight, and then 2 days later, they painted on the screen lies over what he had written, and that's when the fighting started. So Russell put me in here. Russell was the head of IT. I was his shadow, and Russell told me, no matter what, never let anyone in the vault, ever. And she's like, but why did everyone go out? Because they thought it was safe. And she's like, because this guy said it was safe? That's why they just... No, because they didn't see him die. They didn't see him die, so they thought, maybe he was still alive. And she's like, and then everyone went out? He's like, yeah. What? And she's like, I didn't fudging clean. A suit. I need to get back. He's like, wait, what? So there's like a crowd gathered. Someone named Teddy is getting taken away. This is in a mechanical. And he yells to his mom. He's like, I'll be all right. So Shirley's like, he was set up. They put up the graffiti themselves. Then I think it was his mom, the lady. She's like, he wasn't set up. He did it. And she's like, and I told him that I was proud. She's like, this is our home down here. These are our walls. So we can mark them up if we want, except they have him now. So Walker says that they all know what she's afraid of. They all know what they can do. And Shirley's like, they're going to want to make an example of someone from Mechanical. But we're not going to let them, are we? It's like, we're not going to let it be your son. Bernard's talking to the judge. Or he takes her to the server room vault. It says server room on the top. And she's like, so why am I here? He's like, I thought we should start with the order. And she's like, well, I tried to forget everything, especially that. So the order is the big book that Bernard is looking at. And she's like, especially that. She's like, but some things remain. She's like, in the event of a failed cleaning, prepare for war. And then she's like, and graffiti. You're supposed to crack down on graffiti, particularly anything that might support a rebellion, or anything that glorifies a person who failed to clean. Have you made any arrests for the graffiti? And he's like, one man down in Mechanical. And she's like, what did he write? And he's like, same as I saw yesterday. And she's like, Juliet lives? Did you catch him on camera? He's like, no, we were tipped off. Most of the cameras below 120 had been knocked out. Nichols must have told him. And she's like, how did she know about the cameras? And he's like, as far as I can tell, she simply figured it out. And the judge is like, she really was something, wasn't she? He's like, outside of my analytics entirely. And the judge is like, I only met her twice. She didn't strike me as someone who'd want to go out. And he's like, she was caught with a red level relic, a hard drive from before the rebellion. And the judge is like, what was on it? He's like, other than a 200-year-old cleaning video that Nichols flashed on the screen? She's like, I don't know. I destroyed it. So then she's like, did she say that she wanted to go out? And he's like, she was going out no matter what. But did she say it? And he's like, yes, she said it. So he's lying. She's like, the next time you make an arrest for graffiti, make sure they're from up top or the mids. And he's like, the order says. And she's like, the order says to blame Mechanical and unite the rest of the silo against them. I know that. But Juliet, she was singular. No one had ever done anything like that before. So you need to think outside of the order. I'm not saying it'll be easy. It might be like trying to think of a color you've never seen. But try. And release the man from Mechanical that you arrested. Show some mercy. Now, if you don't mind, I'd really like to get the fudge out of here. So she starts to leave. And then she's like, Juliet went to silo number 17? And he's like, yes. Could she survive in there? And he's like, unlikely. That silo's been dead for a long time. From before I made you my shadow. So Juliet, she's kind of looking around. She managed to get some power going from some lights by rigging some wires. And there's a little like explosion for a bit, but she gets this like kind of lamp thing going. And then she's like, looks at what she has to work with. And then she sees, we want to go out, like written on a wall. Sims, he's in his like office, looking through some files or whatever. Bernard comes in and asks how are they doing with the people that he had him pull in, the ones that may have seen what Nichols put on the computers. And Sims like, they're all being put on medication. We're saying it's for anxiety. And then he's like, what about the two who helped Nichols? He's like, Patrick Kennedy and Danny Bly. So Patrick Kennedy is the one guy whose like wife died or something like that. That Juliet knew. And then Danny Bly is the guy that was like the computer expert that was able to hook it up. So Sim's like, they're in judicial seclusion. And Bernard's like, have they been medicated yet? And Sim's like, no, why? So then Sims goes to one of the detainees. He has a hood over his head. It's Patrick Kennedy. So he has a hood over his head. And it's like there's like a strap like around his neck. It's pretty tight because he was like, oh, these are so tight. And then there's like another, almost like a belt. It's like a gag. And he takes it off and he sees he's been hit. There's some blood on his face. So Sims, takes all of this off. He's like, there we go. All right. You know who I am. And Patrick like chuckles. He's like, everyone knows who you are, Sims. Parents threaten their children with you if they don't eat their broccoli. And he's like, kids got to eat their broccoli. And Patrick's like, I ate mine. You going to let me go? He's like, I'm going to need a little more than that. So Patrick's like, what more can I give you? You already took Doris. He's like, your wife? He's like, yes, my wife. Fudge nuts. He's like, there's nothing more you can take from me. And I've seen things. I know things. I know it's all a fudging lie. So how about we skip to the part where you stick a knife in my eye? He's like, not everyone who knows things has to die. He's like, can you stop saying mysterious poop, please, for just a second and get to why the fudge I'm here? So Sim's like, there's a drug. It makes you forget. And he's like, forget what? We'd start with the small things we want you to forget. So a small dose should take care of the last few weeks. And then Patrick's like, what about a big dose? We could take you back to before Doris died. And he's like, how would that work? What do I wander around wondering where she went? He's like, no, if this drug is real, then I'm going to go all the way back. I want to go back 22 years to before I met her. He's like, we can do that for you, but there's something you're going to have to do for us first. So Billings, new sheriff now, he stares something like this glass dome on the judge's like coffee table. And she's like, beautiful, isn't it? He's like looking at it. He's like, what was it? And she's like, I don't know. She's like, the reason I asked you to stop by, have you finished a report on Sheriff Nichols' cleaning? He's like, almost. I need one more witness statement. Did Miss Nichols say she wanted to go out? And Billings like, according to the mayor, Mr. Sims, and 4 of the 5 raiders that were there, she did. I'm speaking to the 5th shortly. And she's like, well then, I'll let you get to it. And he's like, Your Honor? He's like, I have the syndrome. And she's like, Sims told me an allowance had been made. I support his decision. It's time we removed the stigma caused unnecessarily by a few discriminatory phrases in the pact. So, there's a theory about what causes the syndrome, that it's not a blood disorder or a vitamin deficiency, just a natural human reaction to an unnatural situation. Human beings are not meant to live underground. None of us have walked a straight line for more than 200 feet, except for Juliet Nichols. When you finish that report on her cleaning, let me see it first. So Juliet goes back by the vault. Solo's like, hey! And there's like this metal tin out there. He's like, open it. So she opens it. And he's like, it's chicken stew. It's not bad. I mean, I don't know. I can't tell anymore, but I remember liking it at first. And then she's just kind of like starts scarfing it down. And he's like, hey, holy spit. And she's like, what? He's like, nothing. Just, wow, you were really hungry. And she just kind of nods. He's like, no suit? And she's like, well, I found like some belts and stuff, but like 10 feet of fabric that wasn't destroyed, that's not enough to make a suit. And then my suit, I tore it to shreds, so no. And he's like, well, the suits were only assembled in room S, and material for the suits is in critical supply, but that's... And she's like, underwater. And he's like, I hope they don't get wet. And she's like, sorry, what? I hope they don't... And she's like, huh? I was trying to do a joke, but it's been a while. Sorry. Juliet? And she's like, yeah. Why didn't you clean? And she's like, because I said I wasn't gonna. He's like, yeah, but everybody says that. And she's like, I figured out why people clean. People, they end up cleaning because when they get outside, they see this beautiful sky and they see beautiful trees and grass and fudging flowers, and they want to tell everyone on the inside what it really looks like, how beautiful it is. And he's like, yeah, but you didn't. And she's like, no, I didn't, because it's fudging BS. It's BS, because I've seen a recording of someone else's cleaning where there were like a bunch of creatures and they were going across the sky. Oh, birds. They're called birds. Okay, so when I went out, I saw these birds, right? The way they were moving was exactly like the ones that I had seen from the cleaning. But exactly. So I knew that it wasn't the display in the cafeteria that was a lie. It was what I was seeing in the helmet. I don't know how they do it. Very advanced computers. Okay, sure, but it was a fudging lie. So why would I clean? I was like, no, I didn't clean. I walked. And I didn't think that what I was doing could lead to what happened here. That I didn't know. You couldn't know. And she's like, why are you alive? Everyone else is dead, but you survived? How? I just, if I didn't, who would guard the vault? And she's like, no, but like, how long have you been in there? How alone, you say? And you have food? So I just do my job, I just keep the door shut. I don't open it. Ever? No. Because clearly someone's tried to get in. So I like to read. I play music. Solo. Can I just ask? The bodies outside in the hall, they're not as old as the other ones. So what happened? And her silence. And then he closes like the little window thing. And she moves closer to the door. She's like, I haven't been able to find food. Thank you. It was really nice. Thank you. He opens the window again. I wasn't being nice. I just needed you to eat the food. And I'm like, oh crap. Did he give her the medicine that's going to make her forget? And she's like, why? He's like, because if you ate the food, then I would know that you were real and I wasn't imagining you. And she's like, you imagine people? And he closes the window again. And she's like, hey, no, Solo, And then she sets like the bowl and the cover by the door, and she walks away. And he kind of like peeks out through the window. Sims is looking around like a Raiders room. There's this. He's like looking kind of like trophies or whatever, like engraved stuff. He's like, that's from when you saved those kids from that madman. What was his name? And the guy's like, I never speak it. Like he never was. That's good. And he's like, no Raider can match your markings on a pistol range. And he's like, still can't. He's like, right you are, Reggie. He's like, right you are. And then he's like, while I appreciate your visit, Mr. Sims, oh, you can call me Rob. He's like, no, sir, I can't. It's like, it'll come as no surprise to you that all retired Raiders are being brought back due to the state of emergency. And Reggie's like, as they should, as we all should. What may come to as a surprise to you is you're being sent down to mechanical. And he just kind of pauses and he's like, a man my age? He's like, I figured we have a long history together helping each other. And he's like, calling in your debt? He's like, you asked for 5 minutes alone with Archie Brent. I gave you 10. So then Reggie's like, just tell me I don't have to stay long in mechanical. Something about the air down there. And Sims is like, not long at all. So down below, Juliet's old Shadow Cooper catches up to Knox. And he's like, hey, he's like, I got something to tell you. And Knox like is happy. He's like, I asked you to watch Shirley to find out what she's up to. Instead, you joined her. And he's like, what, you surprised I know that? You think I only asked you to watch her? And he's like, okay, yeah, I was there, but that's why we need to talk. So Billings talks to the fifth raider. Her name's Jean. He thanks her for coming up. And he's like, now in the section of the pack dealing with the responsibilities of the sheriff, it states that one of them is submitting a report to judicial on every cleaning. That's why I asked you up. He's like, I didn't see Sheriff Nichols until she was in custody, but you were there when she was arrested? And she's like, yes. And he's like, in the cornfield? She's like, that's right. And before she took off running, what did she say? Then we see Juliet's dad's kind of like walking around. It's like this park area because there's like, benches and like a fountain, whatever, trees. There's this woman. She's like, oh, you can't sleep? And he's like, oh, I may have misjudged my coffee cutoff time. He's like, you? And she's like, nerves. She's like, I didn't think we'd get another chance at the birth lottery, but with the sheriff going out, they're holding a bonus drawing, so we have double the luck. She's like, we want so badly to have a child, but I'm wondering if I should even have a baby with everything going on. And he's like, having a baby is a venture of hope. Then he says that people who planted the trees, they never got to sit under them. And then she's like, do you have kids? He's like, uh-huh. And she's like, what's it like? And he's like, with our first, I could hear her before I saw her, my ear to my wife's belly. And he's like, you wonder for months who they'll be, what they'll look like, and how they'll walk and smile and cry. And then one day you meet them and they're perfect. And she smiles. And she's like, I think I'd better get some sleep. And she introduced herself as Phoebe Wells. And he's like, Pete Nichols. And then she looks at him and she realizes, she's like, oh, I'm so sorry. He's like, that's okay. She's like, what I said before about Juliet going out. He's like, no. He's like, at least some goods come out of it. And I hope you win. And she's like, thank you. He's like, good night. So Juliet's sleeping. And then something wakes her. She hears something. So she goes to see, like, what is she hearing? There's some music blaring. I think it's like Peter Gabriel. And so she goes to the vault. And she's like, what? He like looks... or she like looks in the window, and then Solo pops up suddenly. He's like, I had a thought. He's like, firefighters. And she's like, yeah, what? They have helmets. They have suits. They have air tanks. They go into smoke. And she's like, no, they're not designed to keep you alive outside. She's like, come on. He's like, yeah, but cleaning suits aren't either. And she's like, I could use a firefighter suit. That's not a bad idea. It's like, yeah, you think so? Because I wasn't sure. And she's like, where could I find one? He's like, well, fire safety equipment is in 3 places, engineering, 70, and 23. And she's like, where on 23? He's like, next to recycling. And she's like, okay. He's like, no, hey, but there might be a problem. Then it cuts to this is like the frustrating part. It cuts to her going down some stairs. It is so immensely dark. I couldn't see why she stopped. So I think it was because of the water right there, because she mentioned that later. But it's like you can't see anything. This show is so dark. And it's like, do I need to change the contrast or whatever my TV? It's like, what the heck? So Billings knocks on a judge's door. He's apologized because it's late. And he said that, you wanted to see the report. And I was like, I just finished with the 5 Raiders. He's like, so he talks to her. He's like, 4 stated that she wanted to go out. The 5th, they say that they were just focused on their job. They say that if the others heard her asked to go out, then that's what she said. And the judge is like, but you're not sure? So he's like, when I was taking her up the stairs, Sheriff Nichols herself told me that she didn't say it. And she's like, wait, you're just saying this now? And Billings kind of like stammers. She's like, I wasn't sure if I could believe her. I wanted to talk to the others, but if witnesses had any doubts, there should have been an inquiry before Nichols was sent out. It's in the pact. He's like, yeah, I know. And he's like, is there anything? She's like, no, I'll take it from here. Thank you for bringing this to my attention, Sheriff. Good night. And she goes back inside, and then she pulls down like a cube in this box from like a shelf. So the cube is like a projector. She hits a little button, and she is watching like videos of some family like on the beach. So like, parents and like a child. So down below, it seems like people are meeting up. They're like walking, they're starting to get together. They're like determined. Shirley's there. The judge is watching videos of families sledding in the snow. Then Knox sees like the crowd coming. He's like, Shirley, turn around and go home. And she's like, give us Teddy and we will. And then one, like the Raider or something like that, it's like, we're not going to do that. And she looks at Hank. There's Hank and some like Raiders behind him. And then she says, Knox, she's like, where'd you get the goons? He's like, goons? Come on, Cheryl. They're deputies. She's like, not the ones with the helmets. And one of the guys like, I can't let you just take someone out of custody. She's like, then release him. So then they all chant, free Teddy, free Teddy, free Teddy. So the police start yelling. He's like, move out. So judge is now watching like family. The little girl's like, right. I don't know if it's all the same family. Maybe. I mean, it would make sense. The little girl's like riding on a horse, whatever. Then, we see Patrick. He's down there. He lights up like a Molotov cocktail, like a firebomb. He throws it above the Raider, and someone's like, is like Cooper tries to stop him. He's like, hey. So it goes off, whoosh, like explodes like flames. Everyone like ducks. Raider starts shooting. Cooper gets shot, and someone else I think gets shot too. I don't know. And then I don't know if Patrick got shot but then Shirley and Knox run to him like Cooper, whatever, and he's like he dies, and he's like, we need help. So then the judge is looking like a birthday party for a kid. She has like tears. Juliet's dad goes on his computer. He looks up Phoebe Wells. The screen says, this procedure has been designated as code silo orange. Patient must not have birth control removed. Patient must have birth control or must believe birth control was removed. So that's what happened way at the very beginning. So they tell him, it's like, yeah, we're going to remove your birth control capsule thing, and you have a year to try to have a kid. And they sometimes don't remove it and make them think that for whatever reason. Yeah, it's just ridiculous. So Hank reports to Billings. No one knows who set things off. They weren't from mechanical, so maybe they don't know who Patrick, that he was there. So Peter's like, well, what about the other one? And Hank says that he was mechanical, born and raised. Terry Cooper's the sweetest kid you'd ever meet. He was just trying to stop the poop head with the firebomb. And Billings asks, he's like, what do you need? And Hank's like, we need everything, but first we need you. So Shirley goes to like the secret area, moves to one little like fake wall thing and goes into like the tunnel parts. So Knox is there. He's like, thanks for coming. And he's like, we're safe here. So like, no one listening, no cameras. And she's like, why didn't you just let us do what we wanted to do? We would have gotten Teddy and everything would be fine. And he's like, really? You're just going to hide him forever? And she's like, she doesn't know how to answer it. But then she's like, we lost Cooper. Like, I just can't believe it. And he's like, me neither. And she kind of like cries, and then she kicks the wall. And he's like, "Come on!" He's like, "Don't hurt your foot." She's like, "You want to punch something? Punch me." She slugs him hard in the gut. He bends, like, "Fudge!" And he's like, "I didn't think you'd actually do that." And she's like, "Neither did I." And he's like, groaning. He's like, "Cheryl, you're not the only one who's angry." It's like, "You're not the only one who lost Jules." And she's like, "Yeah, I'm not so sure we lost her." He's like, "It's been 2 days." He's like, "We don't know what she saw over that hill. She might still be out there somewhere, still alive." And he's like, "I want to know the truth just as bad as you do, but we can't do it the way you've been doing it." She's like, "Then how?" He's like, "You remember when we were kids and we used to explore down here? Remember what that wall of names we found?" She's like, "Yeah." He's like, "We didn't know what it meant then. Now I think I do." But the other thing, which unfortunately that Bernard smashed the hard drive, because I don't think anyone really saw it, but there's like a map. I think it was when what the guy's, was his name Tom, Juliet's boyfriend that had the hard drive. There's all that water, and then I think there's like a tunnel to. I think all the silos are connected through these water things, but no one knows that. Bernard says, he's like, "One morning at dawn, I will shut down the cafeteria display screens for routine maintenance along with all the cameras in the sheriff's office. I'll operate the airlock, and you'll have 5 minutes to get up over the hill and out of sight before I reactivate the screens." He's like, "Are you sure you want to do this?" And she's like, "When do I get my suit?" He's like, "Well, as head of IT, I have my own suit. I thought maybe we could modify that." And she's like, You're 9 feet tall." And he kind of laughs. He's like, "Which is why I think it's best to have your own made. I'll say it's for a prospective shadow. Normally, we send a team to measure you, but as this is going to be just between you and I will do it." And she kind of chuckles. So then she finally stands up, takes off like her coat or whatever. And he's like, they start with the arms. And he like extends his arms, so she does that. And I don't know if these two were ever like intimate, ever close, or liked each other, because like their close proximity seems like something. And she's helping like move the measure around, tape measure, so he's not like totally whatever. He starts like measuring her, and she's like, "Don't you need to write them down?" He's like, "No." So I guess he's going to memorize all these numbers. So she's like, "Bernard?" He's like, "Yes." And she's like, "May I ask you a question? Have I been helpful?" He's like, "You're the only person I can talk to." And she's like, "But you just need to talk. My opinion is neither required nor needed." And he's like, "They are both required and needed." And she's like, "Yet ignored. I said you should release the man who did the graffiti and mechanical." And he's like, "He was released." And she's like, "Yes, not until there was a firebombing and a shooting that claimed 2 lives. Was that you?" He's like, "No." And she's like, "Really? Because it seems straight out of the order. Get them to retaliate, which in turns stirs up anti-mechanical resentment in the silo, which allows you to crush a rebellion." He's like, "Wasn't me. I mean, technically it wasn't. It was Sims, I'm assuming." And she's like, "Are you sure?" And he's like, "I wouldn't lie to you." And she's like, "And yet you already have." And he's like, "How?" She's like, "Juliet Nichols did not ask to go out, did she?" And he like doesn't say anything. Someone says no, but it was like quiet. I think it might have been her. She's like, "No," but he doesn't like really answer. Then she's like, "You got all the measurements you need?" He's like, "Yes." She's like, "Well then, you can leave now." And she's like, "Don't come back without my suit." So Juliet pounds on the vault door. She's calling Solo. She's like, "You were right. It's underwater. But I think I can make it work. If I could drop into the water, I could go down 1 level, and I can maybe make it through to the apartments and into the alleyway. But I'm going to have to build something that can pump air down to me, which means I'm going to need you to run it while I'm under." "Solo?" She's like, "I need your help." And he yells, he's like, I can't come out." She's like, "But you've been out before, the 2 bodies in the hall." And he's like, I'm not supposed to open the door." And she's like, you gave me food? You opened the door to give me food?" Yeah. I don't open the door when you're here." So she kind of scoffs and like sighs. She's like, "Look, I don't want to push you. I don't need to know what happened here, okay? I get it. I know you don't want to talk about it, and I know that you've lost everyone in your life, but I need to get back. I need to get back, okay? And I know you're not supposed to open the door. Well, it's my job. She's like, but I need you to help me, okay? I need you to help me save my 10,000 people, Solo. 10,000 people. It's like, look, I know it's not going to make up for what happened here, but if I could get home, if you could help me get home, then maybe we could stop what happened here from happening there. But and she whispers, I fudging need you, please. And he's like, I can't. And she like turns and she like stares straight at her. And then she's like looking at the walls. There's like writing in there. She closes the door to like this inner area. And she reads the writing. It says, we will get in sooner or later. So did like not everyone go out and they're trying to get at him? But she sighs and like Solo's like watching. And then he closes the window and she turns around. And she's like, okay, I get it. It's okay. I get it. Thanks for the food. I'll see you around. And then he opens the window. It's like, wait. What are you going to do? And she's like, I don't know. I'll figure it out. And she like leaves. So Juliet's father, he's getting ready. You know, he's with to fake the procedure. Phoebe's there with her husband. He asks if she's numb because there's got like the curtain, whatever. He's about to operate, and she's like, yeah. She's like, there's nothing to be nervous about. He's like, it'll be over before you know it. And the husband says that he just wants to let him know how. And she's like looking at him, like kind of like they rehearsed, like she told him what to say. So he says that he wants to say how grateful they are and how acutely aware they are that this possibility only exists because of his daughter. And he's like, thank you. And in the Phoebe, he's like, I hope you have a girl. So he cuts into her. He opens this like little metal canister and he holds up like a fake birth control capsule, like with like tweezers. He looks at it because this is where he's like, and here it is, but it's really still inside. But then he puts it back in the canister, and then he inserts his like tweezers into her and pulls out like the actual one. And he like holds up. He's like, you're now free to make a baby. A couple stitches, and you'll be good to go. So Juliet walks over. She goes over to like the walkway, and then Solo's like, don't go. And she turns and Solo's standing there. And so you see this dude, he has long hair, like in a beard or whatever. Little tiny bit chubby, not so much. And he's like, do I look bad? And she's like, no. And she's like, I thought maybe you'd look different. And he's like, I never come out this far. It's so big. It seems like it's just so much space. And she's like, you want to see more? And he's like, yeah. And she's like, okay, where do you want to go? Want to go up? And he looks up and is like, whoosh. He's like, up? And she's like, okay. So the thing is, because if he was a shadow, it's like, how old was he? Did he just forget all this? Because we have no idea how long he's been in there. So he takes slow steps over like the walkway, and she's like, yeah. She's like, be careful. And then he starts to like lose his balance. She sort of grabs him and he pulls away. And she's like, did I hurt you? He's like, no, yes, kinda. And she's like, oh. And he's like, it's not your fault. Sorry. And she's like, it's okay. He's like, just sit. We can just sit. He's like, I'll be here. And he's like, it's been a long time. You really are here, aren't you? And she's like, yeah, I am. And then that's where it ends. Oh, this show, I don't know why I'm just like so fascinated with like just all the detail and stuff. Like, I love this show. And now Cobra Kai season 6 episode 7, Dog in the Fight. So as I mentioned earlier, I think most likely I'm just going to do one episode this week. I could try to edit, and I think we'll just so with this one, we see more fighting. The Iron Dragons are they get another point. Then Cobra Kai, Tori gets a point for Cobra Kai. Fan favorite Zara gets another point for the Iron Dragons. Then it's Sam's turn. Johnny's telling her not to be afraid, be aggressive. Daniel's like, no, take it slow. And Johnny's like, no, like, not take it slow. He's like, you got to go after him. So she's like fighting with this. It's like a staff, whatever. They continue giving like contradicting pointers. Kreese is just like laughing. And Cobra Kai's in third place with 28 points. Miyagi-Do's in 11th with 17. Then we see Miguel fighting two guys at once. Dimitri goes down. Hawk goes down. Devin goes down. Sam gets hit in the side. Point for the other team. Robbie gets kicked high and he goes down. And the Iron Dragons get the final point. So I think they're like just all fighting, whatever. Daniel talks to everyone later in like the hotel lobby. He's like, this morning's event was tough. And, he's like, but let's not get discouraged just yet. He's like, we have 2 more events today. Eliminations don't begin until the second one. And Dimitri stupidly is like, that wasn't the elimination round? Then what is? Getting our heads cut off with swords? And Danny's like, we knew this wasn't going to be easy. We're going up against the best dojos in the world. But don't forget, you guys are one of them too. Johnny's like, yeah, so you better start fighting like it. And he's like, Johnny, come on, man. And he's like, the best thing you can do right now is just clear your mind, get some rest, put this behind you. He's like, you've got this, all right? I believe in you. And they all leave without a word. And Daniel tells Johnny, he's like, he's going to go check on Chosen. And Johnny's like, what? He's been puking up all morning. He probably won't be up all day. And then Daniel Square says, he's like, I don't get why he thinks drinking himself sick is going to help him get over his heartbreak. And Johnny's like, because people don't always take the right approach, like the way you've been saying. And he's like, here we go. He's like, you keep telling him to take it easy when they're getting buried alive. And Danny's like, yelling at them will not make them fight better, okay? They need encouragement and focus. And Johnny's like, they need points. It's like, this is a tournament, remember? If we end up at the bottom of the rankings going into the elimination round, we might as well say adios. Danny's like, Johnny, we cannot keep arguing like this. Not if we want to beat those other dojos. It's like the Iron Dragons have fighters from all over the world. Their sensei is a former 3-time champ. And he's like, I don't care. He's a wussy. I'm not scared of him. Danny's like, yeah, well, he's certainly not going to be scared of us, seeing we can't even figure out how to sensei together. And Johnny's like, I've been letting you do your go take a nap, find your balance, BS, but clearly it's not working. And Danny's like, how do you expect these kids to master Miyagi-Do if one of their senseis keeps calling it BS? He's like, you know what's BS? Letting them keep losing because you care more about honoring some dead guy's legacy than doing what will actually help them. And then there's kind of like smoke coming out of Daniel's ears, but before he can, well, not really. But before he can say anything, this lady from the desk calls like, Mr. LaRusso. He's like, someone left you, there's just a big envelope for him. He looks at some papers inside. He's like, holy spit. And Johnny's like, what? Is that the bill for the minibar? Chosen should pay. So the letter's like, Mr. LaRusso, Master Serrano can meet you today at 11 a.m. He knew your sensei. So the address is included. He's like, no, I got to go. This is important. And Johnny's like, more important than a tournament? He's like, we still have a few hours. He's like, I'll be back before the next event. And he's like, don't come back until you get your head on straight. And then for some reason, Kreese decides to talk to Daniel as he heads out. Well, what do we have here? Someone's in a hurry. And Daniel looks at him and just keeps going. He's like, what? Are you running away after your dojo's brilliant performance? Daniel takes a deep breath and keeps going. But it's like, well, what if he's going out for coffee? Or what if he's going for a new pair of shoes? It's like, what is Kreese? Like, oh, he's rushing off. It's like, shut up. Kreese is such a loser. It's like, you just go away. In an elevator, Devin tells Sam, she's like, I really sucked out there. And Sam's like, we all did terribly. And Devin continues, she's like, but I fell flat on my butt. She's like, I'm making an embarrassment of myself. And Sam says, it would help if their senseis got on the same page. So, I guess, it's Daniel and Johnny's fault that they were all kind of sucky? And then she's like, Johnny needs to start working with my dad better. And I was like, oh, my brother. And then Devin's like, well, I don't think it was all Sensei Lawrence's fault. Then Zara gets in the elevator. So from the Iron Dragons, she's like live streaming. She says that the Iron Dragons absolute slayed. It's like, although it was awesome to see the other badass girls of karate fighting out there. And she kind of looks over at Sam, pauses. Anyway, let's see if any of these other dojos there try to dethrone us. And to all my fans, I'm here to win for you. And we can see there's like 203,000 people watching. It's like, really? Some random karate girl? Like, okay, maybe. And she's like, stay tuned. I'll post again after the next event. Zara, out. And she blows a kiss. And then she looks at the two. She's like, sorry, I only do intros on my stories for fighters who win their events. It's a brand thing. So don't take it personally. And she gets off on this other floor. Devin scoffs, and Sam just like, wow. Dimitri suggested they skip the rest of the events. Hawk questions like, you're giving up already? And Dimitri says, realistically, there's no way that they can win. Miguel just sits quietly, as they're bickering. And then Hawk says that, Miguel fought really good. Miguel's like, thanks, but he's like, I don't know about Robbie. And he says, he doesn't know what's going on with his head, but he's not fighting the same. And Hawk's like, oh, he's probably still bummed about Tori being on Cobra Kai. And Miguel's like, well, he needs to get over it. At this rate, it's going to matter if they advance because, he's going to be fighting for them in the finals. And Hawk's like, don't know if this means anything to you, but we all think it should be you out there. And Dimitri agrees. Then Robbie comes out of the bathroom and it's kind of like awkward silence. He's like, what? And Dimitri, he covers like, oh, we're just talking about the mystery of who cut the cheese last night, blah, blah, blah. Daniel calls Amanda about where he's going. He's like in a cab or something or whatever, Uber. She's like, okay, so some mysterious, potentially dangerous fighter in the middle of a country where you don't speak the language. And he jokes, he's like, oh, but I speak un poco español. And he's like, going to have Google Translate. And she's like, I thought we agreed to move on from digging into Mr. Miyagi's past. He's like, yeah, but that was before I learned about the headband. He's like, when we first met him, he said he was against tournaments. And now, I find out he was probably in one of the biggest in the world during a time in his life he never spoke about. His wife and newborn child had just died. If this guy knew Mr. Miyagi, he could shed some light on what happened. So he's like, I got to at least talk to him. But why you're so nosy? If he didn't talk to you about it, there's probably a reason. So she says that she gets it, but, couldn't he have waited? She's like, I thought you had 2 more events today. He's like, well, this is the only time he would meet. It's not that far. So they arrive. They're like this big structure. And driver asks, he's like, is this the correct address? He's like, tourists don't come here. And then Daniel's like, see. Then he asks the driver, is like, espera aquí? But then the driver takes off when he's like, hey. In the buffet line, Johnny asks for this muffin thing. And in the Iron Dragon sensei, it's a steak stealer, he's like, Magdalena. And Johnny's like, what'd you just call me? He's like, it's what you're eating. And then he orders in Spanish, like 4 eggs, hold the yolks, and no salt. And Johnny's like, hey, you know what? You're not the only one who speaks Spanish around here. Yo también. And the dude kind of chuckles. He's like, actually, it's a Catalan. He's like, that is what they speak here in Barcelona. And then they argue like some more or whatever. Then Johnny's like, why do you have to be such a pain in the ass at every buffet? And he says that, he teaches his students to fuel the body, to eat nutrients rich in protein and antioxidants so they perform at their peak. And he's like, well, maybe from where you're from, they only eat crap like this. And Johnny's like, you don't know poop about me or where I come from. And he's like, I know Americans, coddled, arrogant, privileged. You have no idea what it is like to sacrifice, what it's like to go hungry, even for one meal. Everything in your life is empty calories. He's like, then maybe it's true. You are what you eat. He's like, yeah, I'm going to take these empty calories and I'm going to shove it right up your... They're interrupted at intercom. Next event will begin in 90 minutes. It's like, I thought they had a few hours. It's like, how long has Daniel been gone? And he's like, good news is your dojo won't be around much longer to waste everyone's time, as you'll all be eliminated tonight. And he's like, BS. He's like, you just better hope that you don't run into us out there, or we'll show you a thing or two about where we come from. And he's like, I won't hold my breath. So we see Daniel kind of like walking around a bit, trying to like find a place. Look at this kid, like scares him, like kind of jumps from behind. He asks him for €5 for like this. At first I thought it was like a necklace or a pendant, but I think it's like a keychain with like Jesus on it. And so then he finally finds the address. The gate is locked, but then he gets hit behind by someone with a crowbar. And he's like knocked out. Sam tries calling him, asking him where is he. She's getting worried, and then she hears Iron Dragon Sensei dude with the student, with the captain. He's like, "What are you doing wrong?" And he like hits him across the head, like in the back of the head. And then They do some more. He like ducks or something like that, and then the sensei hits him like several times, and then the kid kind of like makes eye contact with Sam, and she just like keeps walking down the hall. On the floor, Johnny tells Sam that she was supposed to be there 15 minutes ago, and she said she was looking for her dad. And he's like, oh, he stepped out. I guess he got caught up or something. It's probably for the best. So the announcers say that this is final points round. Competitors will try to knock their opponents off their platforms. Once you have fallen, you are out. Points are determined off of wins, losses, and time. So final rankings after the event will determine placement in tonight's elimination round. So Johnny says it looks like he's taking charge as they're doing things differently. He's like, no more waiting around like scared little witches. He doesn't say witches. He's like, waiting for them to come at you. He's like, go at them, aggressive, knock them off first. And Sam's like, those platforms are pretty narrow. It's like, my dad would want balance. He's like, well, your dad's not here, all right? It's time for us to start scoring some points. So Devin gets called up to one of the platforms. Johnny tells her not to let him down. So he's like, she gets like aggressive, but then she does like this roundhouse kick. Her opponent ducks and allows her to like knock Devin off. And it was 10 seconds. And she like slaps the floor in like frustration. And, maybe because she shouldn't be there since she cheated against Kenny. So Johnny's like, he's like, we need to do better. Let's go. And he doesn't even say anything like, good job or nice try or whatever. But it's just like, we need to do better. Daniel starts to wake up. There's like some water dripping in his head. He's in like a cage, like a dog crate. And there's like dogs barking around him. He starts yelling, help, like someone get me out of here. It's like, really? Who do you think put you in there, dude? These two dudes come in. One of them is like eating. And Daniel's like, I don't know who you are, but you can't do this. I'm an American. It's like, ooh, you're American. Okay. He's like, there must be some kind of mistake. And one guy's like, no mistake. He's like, this was planned? You work for Serrano? It's like, I just need to ask him a question about my sensei. Please, I need to get back to my students. And they just leave. So we don't see it, but King is out 45 seconds. Johnny tells Miguel he's their last chance for points. But then it's kind of weird. The opponent like charges at him and like grabs his midsection. And, then he tries like pushing him off or something like that. It's like, that's not karate. And then he like grabs him again. So Miguel manages to break free. He, does some moves. He knocks the guy off. So like 40 seconds. So they go from 13th to 12th place. They have 27 points. And Johnny's like, oh, crap. So Miguel's like happy. He goes up, Johnny's like, Sensei, did you see that knee? And he's like, too little, too late, man. And Cobra Kai's in third place with 45. He's like, we're near the bottom of the standings. He's like, there's nothing to celebrate here. And he's like, what? And Hawk and Dimitri get up, and Johnny's like, where the hell do you think you're going? Dimitri's like, back to the hotel to wash off this disgrace. He's like, you're not getting off that easy. He's like, locker room, now. So the Iron Dragon Sensei waves at Johnny. So in the locker room, he's like, what I saw from you just now, that wasn't karate. It was weakness. It's like, you fought like little lambs waiting for slaughter. We keep going like this, we'll get eliminated tonight. He's like, some of you will put this behind you, but some of you are going to carry this for the rest of your lives, knowing you had this chance to make something of yourselves, but instead you crumbled under pressure, and you're going to go on to live poop lives in poopy apartments with poop jobs, and will always have to live with this failure. So if you want to save some humiliation, why don't we just skip the next round and catch the next flight home? It's like, what is wrong with you guys? Where's your fight? It's like, aren't you going to stand up for yourselves? And Sam's like, you keep blaming us like this isn't on you too. If my dad had been there, we would never have lost like that. And he's like, yeah, well, he didn't show up. And she's like, probably because of you, because you keep disrespecting him, trying to prove your way is better when it's so clear that we should have been using Miyagi-Do. You shouldn't even be wearing that gi. And Devin jumps up, hey, don't talk to my sensei like that. And Sam's like, your sensei got you knocked off the board in 10 seconds. I would sit down if I were you. You're not helping us. I don't even know how you made this team. And then boom, she sits down in shock. And Devin is like shots fired. Dimitri's like, well, I, for one, will be putting all this behind me when I'm off to MIT. And Hawk's like, shut the fudge up about MIT. It's like, some of us, and he mentioned, like, motions toward Miguel, care about winning the tournament. Be nice if you did too. Robbie's like, guys, can we cool it? This isn't helping. We need to focus up. And Miguel shakes his head a little bit, and Sophie's like, maybe you should listen to your own advice. And Robbie's like, got something to say? And Miguel turns to him and looks at him. He's like, I already did. And he gets up. And Johnny's like, hey, I'm not finished. And Miguel's like, no offense, Sensei, but I'm pretty sure we heard enough from you. And the other guys, except for Robbie, follow. And he's like, guys, come on. And Robbie gets up. He's like, Robbie. He's like, sorry, Dad. Daniel's still yelling while the dogs are barking. Let me out. Just tell your boss I knew Noriyoshi Miyagi. He takes out the bandana and says, it's like, I'm such an idiot. He's like, he led me down the wrong path this trip. He's like, I don't know if I'm ever going to get out. So as he unfolds a bandana, the Jesus like keychain thing falls out. He's like, not even you can help me. But then he looks at the keychain part. So what does he think he's going to pick it's like a metal padlock with like a key, one of the ones with the key. So he's going to somehow pick the lock with that. Johnny goes to the buffet room, gets another one of the Magdalena muffin things. The stupid Crease calls out his name. Looks like things are going swimmingly for Miyagi-Do. Where's your partner? I hope he didn't run into any trouble. So is he involved in this? Is whatever? So was the note fake? But it's like, how would he know about Master Strong? Maybe did he hear? I don't know. Johnny just like walks past him without saying a word. So that's good. Outside the buffet room, Devin comes up to him, asks if she can talk to him, and so they like go to this bench, and he's like, "What's wrong?" And she's like, "I just wanted to get here so badly to prove to you and everyone that I'm a badass, but I ended up doing something I regret, and I hurt someone." And she's like crying, and for what? I knew I couldn't beat Kenny, so I had to cheat to make sure I would win, and now I'm here, and I'm getting demolished out there, and I can't compete with the others. I don't deserve to be here. He's like, hey, come here. He's like, you want to talk regret? If I had $1 for every time I'd done something I regret, I'd be a gajillionaire. He's like, one thing I'll never regret is all the work I put into students like you. He's like, I realize I've been putting a lot of pressure on you lately, so I'll take my share of the blame for this Kenny situation. If I ever pushed you beyond your limits, it's because I know you're capable of more than you think. It's like, I'll always have your back, all right? So don't think about regret right now. Just think about kicking ass out there because I know you can. Your team needs you more than you know. About Kenny, I'm not going to be the first to say anything. I'll leave it up to you how you want to come clean, all right? And she gives him a hug. Thanks, Sensei. He's like, maybe this Miyagi-Do good energy BS isn't BS. He's like, all right, go warm up with the others. I'll meet you out there. And he tries calling. Daniel goes straight to voicemail. He's like, I know I said some things like how you shouldn't come back or whatever, but I didn't actually mean that. You and I, we have our moments, but one thing we share is we're there for the kids, and they need you right now. And I can't believe I'm saying this, but I guess I need you too. So just get your ass back here. So one of the dudes, he's like, I'm going to go check on our friend. So he goes to the window, to the door, and he sees that Daniel's not in his cage. So he calls the other guy. He grabs a crowbar. So Daniel left the Jesus keychain on the floor, which is rude. But then Daniel pops out of somewhere, smashes a guy's head against like a pole and a pipe or whatever like that. Second guy swings a crowbar, but Daniel easily ducks. And then he grabs a lock in another cage. Like, next time, feed your dogs. He like opens the cage. The dog grabs his arm. Thankfully, he dropped the crowbar, which Daniel picks up. And he uses it to like to wedge the door shut from outside. And then this guy comes down the stairs, like kicks Daniel with both feet while holding onto the railings. He's like, where do you think you're going? And then he holds up his hand. He's like, come on. He's like, let's go. So does some like hand moves and kicks, whatever. And Daniel's like, you know karate? So he starts attacking Daniel, is blocking. Then Daniel gets in some kicks and hits, but also gets slammed against the wall and the pole, whatever. Daniel delivers some more, but then he gets knocked down. He reaches and I guess he like, tears a guy's like sleeve off. And there's a cobra tattoo on his arm. You're Cobra Kai? You work for Kreese? It's like, wait, who is this guy? And why would he have a cobra? What? Is he from Korea? Why does he have a Cobra Kai tattoo? It just makes no sense. Why? whatever. So he stands up, getting fighting position again, like kind of does a crane move, kicks a guy in the chest, and then so Daniel suddenly has this like new resolve, and keeps delivering blows, and finally knocks the guys down, grabs his phone. This isn't over, and he goes upstairs. In the lobby, Robbie comes after Miguel. He's like, "Hey, can we talk, please?" He's like, "Look, you obviously got some poop to get off your chest about me, so just say it." And Miguel's like, "Fine, since no one else is going to tell you, you have the opportunity of a lifetime to be captain, and you're completely blowing it. You've lost every one of your matches. It's like you don't even care." And he's like, "Well, it hasn't exactly been the easiest for me since I've been here." And Miguel's like, "It was never supposed to be easy, okay? You knew being captain would have changed my life." And he's like, "Well, it's not all about you, dude. It can change my life too." And he's like, "Hold a grudge all you want, but I won it fair and square back home." And Miguel's like, "Sure, but you're also going to be the reason we go home with nothing. So either man up or admit I'm a better fighter than you and hand it over." And he just like walks away, and Robbie just stands there. And then he pulls a bandana like from around his neck. So he's walking around with it around his neck because he thinks he's so cool. So the announcer says that they've entered the elimination phase. The dojos who do not win tonight will be headed home. The previous rounds have determined their current rankings. The number 1 team will face the number 16 team. The number 2 will face the number 15, and so on. Devin's like, "That means at number 12, we're facing number 5, Dublin Thunder." And Hawk's like, "Great. I heard they started a fight with some locals at the beach. They're always looking for a brawl." The announcer's like, "And now the rules of the event. Fighters will again face off on a platform, but this time, 2 fighters from each dojo are allowed at one time." And the platform's like raised up higher. Two fighters are allowed at one time. If one of your fighters falls, they are out, but another teammate can climb up to take their place. However, the fight never stops, so get up there quick. Do not leave your teammate alone 2-on-1. But it seems like they almost stop. Somehow they get up there instantly. They're like, someone gets knocked off and they're like, "Oh, you better get up there." And then they go. And then somehow, zoom, When all the fighters of a dojo have been knocked off, the team is out. So the Iron Dragon's pretty much easily advanced to it. It just doesn't make sense. So the top player, the top team, goes up against the very worst. They're like totally eliminated. There's like why even bother? So they move to the next round. And then the male captain yells out, "Rah!" Hawk and Dimitri talk about him. He's like, "He's a cross between the Winter Soldier and Frankenstein's monster." And stupid Sam, she's like, "Don't call him monster. You don't know him or what he deals with." And it's like, "Oh, because you were being Miss Nosybody and saw him," whatever. And Zara's just like waves and blows kisses. Next is Korea's Cobra Kai versus Sweden. Oh, they skipped the second team. So Cobra Kai is at number 3. They're going up against Sweden's Polarslaget. Tori gives like a flying roundhouse kick to her opponent's face. They fall off. They announce like, "Oh, the move by Tori Nichols." The dude, and when they're done, the dude with her team next to her picks up like a bloody tooth. So Cobra Kai advances to the next round. So then the crowd starts chanting, "Tori, Tori, Tori." And Zara does not like that. She like looks around. She's like, "What?" Next, Dublin Thunder versus Miyagi-Do. Sam looks around for her dad's not there. Johnny goes up to her. He's like, "Hey," he's like, "I know I didn't act like it before, but I wish your dad was here too. I'm sure he's okay." It's like, "I'll do my best to fill his shoes until he's back." And she's like, "Yes, sensei." And he tells them all, he's like, "Bring it in." He's like, "It's been a tough day. Probably shouldn't have been such a Richard to you all. But I want you to know that I believe with every bone in my body that you can do this. You guys know a lot more about balance than me, so remember everything that Sensei LaRusso said and use all your Miyagi-Do skills to stay up there, okay? I'm thinking we should start strong with our captains, Sam and Robbie." And then Robbie stupidly looks at Miguel and like tightens the headband in the back, did a little knot, whatever. And he's like, "Devin, you'll go next. Hawk, Dimitri, and Miguel's our anchor." So it's like, what does that mean? So they start. Robbie like roundhouse kicks one, and then he stupidly stops because he looks down and sees Tori standing, with her dojo, and then he gets hit twice and like twirls off. and then they just kind of stand there watching, and Johnny finally tells Devin, "It's like, oh, okay, you got this, go." So Devin manages to, she does manage to knock a Dublin fighter off. Sam gets kicked from behind. She stays up, but then Johnny calls out like, "LaRusso, Miyagi-Do," and she knocks another off. And then somehow the next person is up there. Sam gets knocked off. Okay, so Hawk's next. He fights Sam's opponent. He knocks her into the mat. He goes to fight next to Devin. The first gets up, like, charged at them. Devin grabs her, and they both go down. So Dimitri's next. Johnny's like, nice sacrifice, badass, Lee. And then stupidly, Dimitri and Hawk like bump into each other, and they like kind of get mad at each other. And then Dimitri manages to knock his opponent like down to his knees, and he turns like to help Hawk, but then he ends up causing both of them to fall. Like, so Hawk and his opponent fall off. So then Dimitri looks down. He's like, "Oh, I'm sorry." Stupidly turns his back, and then he gets kicked. Then Miguel leans over to Robbie. He's like, "Hey, watch how it's done." So now it's down to 2-1. He does like very well, and eventually he kicks one off. He delivers like a flying kick to the other. Incredible performance from Miyagi-Do's Miguel Diaz. His triumph sends Miyagi-Do to the next round. And Robbie's kind of like in shock, and the others go up to him and cheer. And Robbie, he doesn't go up on the platform. He does eventually go up there so they can all bow to their sensei. And Miguel just gives Robbie like a glare when they walk off. And Johnny's cell phone buzzes. He's like, "Hey, Rosa." He's like, "You won't believe what happened." "Wait, what? Slow down. Daniel enters the lobby. And of course, stupid Kreese is like they're sitting in a chair or whatever, doing something. He's like, well. You were missed at the events today. Did you get yourself caught up in something?" And then Daniel like shoves him against the wall. "Think you could fudge with me?" He's like, "Take it easy, Danny boy. It's only a tournament." And then Sam's like, "Dad?" And he's like, "Sam." So he goes up to her, hugs her. I'm so sorry I wasn't here today." She's like, "I was so worried. Where were you?" He's like, I wish I had a good reason. How about you were kidnapped and put in a dog crate, but maybe he doesn't want to scare her? I don't know. He's like, I went out for lunch and got in a cab, and it's a long story, okay? But how do we do here today? She's like, "It was rough, but we made it through to the next round." He's like, "Good, and I promise I will not let you down again." So Daniel enters his hotel room. Johnny's like packing, and he's like, "Hey, listen, Johnny." It's like, "I got your voice. What's going on?" He's like, "I got a call from Rosa. Carmen's been rushed to the hospital. Something went wrong with the pregnancy." He's like, "What? When? Is she going to be okay?" He's like, "I don't know. I talked to Miguel. We're leaving tonight. I haven't told the others." And Danny's like, I'll take care of it. Just focus on getting there. Just leave everything to me." He's like, "Thanks, man." So Johnny and Miguel are leaving, which that's not, I mean, they need Miguel. So I don't know what that means. Because like, is there any way that they can go there and come back? I mean, or is Miguel just totally out of the tournament now? So, see, and here's the thing. So as I record this right now, I have no idea. Obviously, if you've been watching it, you already know. The next episode is called Snakes on a Plane. I don't know what that means. So there's Cobra Kai on the plane? That doesn't make any sense. So how long until the next round? Is it the next day? I don't know. So yeah, so that's the second episode of this round, which is really the 7th episode of the 6th season of Cobra Kai. And now the movie feature is Moana 2, Electric Boogaloo. So yeah, I debated what to see, and I decided to go with Moana 2. So the strange thing, I don't know if I talked about this last week or whatever, and I think I mentioned at the beginning of the episode, I had never seen Moana, and I knew nothing about it. I knew it was with Dwayne Johnson, and then I knew they were making a live action, but I'd never seen the movie. At this point, my daughter wasn't, she was starting to get older, like high school, whatever, and not so much into seeing like the kiddie cartoons and stuff like that. And because what was this, 2016? I was still like busy with work, and I guess that's one of the nice things about it's like I put in long hours at Comic Vine and GameSpot. I mean, it didn't matter to anyone. No one cared. So yeah, so it's kind of I feel like I'm actually home more, even though I got the long hours at school. But anyways, apart from that, so I never saw the movie. I didn't know anything about it. But then like the one song, somehow I knew that song when it came out. It's like I've heard this before, and it's by Lin Manuel. What's his name? Which who does not do any of the music in this episode. So that ding, that's like one strike against this movie. So yeah, that song is just like so iconic. Somehow I had heard it even beyond and had no idea that it was from Moana. And I was like, I've heard this song. So I was like, they use this song as something? I was like, why do I know this song as I'm watching this? So as I watched the first episode, my daughter's like, let's watch it. I was like, and it was, oh my gosh, it was so gorgeous. Just the animation and the colors and everything like that. I was like, oh, I wish, we got a decent sized TV, but I was like, man, I wish I had a bigger TV. I was like, this needs to be on a big screen. So I was like, I got to see Moana 2 because this was just amazing. And it was a good story. It was interesting and everything, and limited. I'm on the fence with Dwayne Johnson. He's not my favorite. I feel like he does okay with the comedy. I feel like his ego kind of gets in the way. I don't know if he's a kind guy. There's the whatever. Some people say he's not a kind guy. I don't know, and that shouldn't matter. But I mean, again, I feel like he's an average action star. I mean, I guess of today's who are the action stars of today? There's not many. So I end up seeing all his movies, and all his movies tend to be pretty good or fairly good or whatever. So I didn't really know much about the movie, but even though he was in it, and there's good jokes and comedy and visuals. The chicken hey was a bit much sometimes in the first movie and in the second movie, but it was, I was just really impressed. I was like, wow, this is a really good movie, and the fact that I'd gone all this time knowing, like, never having seen it. So then comes the second movie. So I'm like, oh, crap. I was like, because I went on a Tuesday afternoon, like a 3:00 show. I was like, man, is it going to be packed with kids? It wasn't that bad. So thank goodness. But watching it, and it wasn't as good as the first. Now, I mean, it's almost like a no-brainer, right? Let's just say the critic scores as I record this, it has gone down a little bit. It's at a 67. I think it was like at a 73 earlier, like when I first saw it. Right now, the audience score is 89%, and that's what matters. It's doing pretty well at the box office. They're predicting, or it's projected it's going to gross over 105 to 115 million in the United States and Canada over the 5-day Thanksgiving weekend. This makes it the biggest opening for a film released during that period. The record currently by Frozen 2013 on November 26. The film set a record for Disney and Thanksgiving box office previews, earning 13.8 million. This was higher than the 13 million at Inside Out 2. Which would go on to be a box office juggernaut in its preview box office. Okay. With the movie, now one of the things I do like about this is they kind of, time goes by. According to Wikipedia, it's only 3 years after it, but I feel like I'm trying to remember, even though I just saw the first one a couple weeks ago, like her dad has like some gray, like at his sideburns. I don't remember that so much. She has a sister now. Was her mom even pregnant before? So her sister, if it's 3 years, her sister's like maybe 3 years old or something like that. And the idea is now she's a wayfarer or whatever, and now that they go on their boats, they want to go to other islands to find other people for some reason. I'm not really clear on why do they need more people. Is it just it's not like a population. Is it a population? Because I think they said if they don't find more people that they're going to end up dying out. So maybe it's a population thing. And just to, I guess, expand and progress or something like that. She's out there. She gets like a vision from an ancestor about this like island, that she has to find this island, and that's the island that connects the people of the ocean or something like that. But this evil god like sank the island or something like that, and so she needs to get to it, and I think it's like once you, so basically, and she needs Maui to pull up the island because he's a demigod or whatever, but he's out busy doing his things, and it turns out he's actually, well, I won't say, I don't want to do too many spoilers, but she has to go out. And now, one of the things that's a little different about this movie is they try adding more characters. So we have her sister, and her sister's supposed to be, the cute little adoring sister, but it's weird because there's like such a connection. She's like, no, I don't want you to go, and there's like this close bond. It's like it almost feels like Moana's her mother, because this closeness or whatever, they're so close, which great, that's awesome sibling, to have siblings that are that close and all that. But she was just a little annoying and that. And then when Moana's going to set out, they're like, well, you can't go out alone, and you need a crew. And hey, and what's the pig's? I forget. Bacon. We'll forget his name. Whatever. So they're like, you need more people to go with you. So there's this other. What's her name? Loto. She's listed as a brainy but quirky member of Moana's wayfinding crew. So she's brainy, but and she's always trying to like redesign things and stuff like that. And like when they're out on a boat, when they first go out, she's like, we need to cut this. She's like cutting ropes and we need to change this mast. And it's like, dude, you can't just start doing all this. And maybe you have these plans, but it's like if Moana's like the quote unquote captain of the ship or whatever, it's like you need to listen or at least like run things by her. But she's just doing all this. So they got her on there. Another female. That's good. Let's get another female character because, and I am totally sincere about that. So it's not just Moana. Everyone else is males, is dudes. But then there's this other dude who's like a grumpy farmer because they can't just eat fish. I guess they need to take food, and so he's going to have plants and stuff. I guess. And then there's this other dude. I forgot what his name is. Moni. He's a huge Maui fan, and he's like he paints all like the tapestries, which is supposed to depict the history and stuff like that. But I guess he's there because he can read images and whatever and all that. They increase the cast, and I feel like they do this occasionally from time to time in sequels. It's like it's not just more the same thing. But it's almost like, well, the formula worked the first time, and now you're trying to change it, or why are you trying to up it? And it doesn't, having more people doesn't always necessarily make something better. I just found it kind of annoying because when you're watching Moana, you want to see Moana and Maui go on their adventure, and yeah, you want the chicken and the pig, but by having these other people, and if the way the story is written, they all play important roles, and if they weren't there, things probably wouldn't have worked out or whatever. But that's just because that's how it's written. I just found them annoying at times. Not all entire the time, but there's a lot of annoying parts. But we do have the coconut people back, whatever they're called. I'm so curious about them because I was watching my daughter's like, what are these? Do we find out what they are? It's like, are they actually are they people in coconuts? Are they actual coconuts that are alive? Like what is it? And I don't know what's been said about them, and I'm so curious about them. And I think the intention, the point of them is they're supposed to be kind of cute nemesis, so it's not like super scary pirates or anything like that. But they got this huge, massive structure boat, so they're capable of doing a lot. And then they got those darts, which they're not. I was gonna say they're not deadly. I mean, they'll knock you out like that. But it's formidable. I mean, they're really something. And then there are some other gods and some bad guys, and there's other dilemmas, and the visuals are really, really good. Some of the things that we see and everything. But the music, it wasn't bad. It was all right. But as I'm watching, like the first song comes out, I was like, whose idea was it that, why do we constantly need to have singing in all these animated movies? It's weird, it's not. Is it? It's not just a Disney thing. It just seems weird because, like, you're watching some other animated. I mean, I know they try adding music to other stuff as well, and part of it is like, let's get some whatever musician to do a cover so we can try to sell more music or some more albums or get people to listen, and it's all marketing stuff. And that's not necessarily the case with this, because they don't like bring in someone other singer the whatever sell a hit song. But it's just weird that it's like, because I guess the thing I always wonder is like, are they like really just like singing? Like, you're going, and then I'm going to do this, I'm going to pick up this pen and I'm going to write this down, because it's like, who just starts singing in the middle of whatever they're doing? It seems like the weirdest thing. So I just wonder, it's like, are they really singing, or is that for our benefit? Like just the presentation? Because if they actually are singing, it's not like all of a sudden there's all this music playing, because there's no one around and they don't have like a radio or anything like that. So it's just, it's the weirdest thing. I don't understand why someone's like, we need a song right here. We need a song right here. And I guess like the original Moana composers are back to do the music here, but we're missing some. We don't have Lin-Manuel Miranda. He does do it, and I'm assuming I don't know if it was availability, if it was money thing or whatever. So like I said, the songs were fine. I nothing stands out, and maybe I'd have to listen to the soundtrack again or something like that. But I don't think there's anything that really stood out like with the first Moana, like that, how the Far I'll Go or whatever that song was. And I guess another complaint might be is it kind of takes a while for them to meet up with Maui, because Maui's busy doing he's in this other situation for a while. They need him. They can't raise the island without him, if they can even get to it. It's kind of weird that I feel like that's what's people. I mean, when you look at, I looked at the posters, and there's like 3 or 4 different posters, and most of them it's just Moana and Maui, and maybe the pig and the chicken, but you don't really have the other people necessarily, because when people see that's what they think of when they think of Moana. They think of Moana and Maui, and they're like barely fighting together, or even together, not just fighting. So it's just a weird decision, but I guess that's how it goes. And so then where do we go from here, I guess, is the thing. Could we ever get a Moana 2? Well, it depends. Does everyone survive this movie? Because it's like, okay, let's do a holiday movie. Let's kill off one of the major characters. Would they do that? This is Disney we're talking about. They're notorious for killing people, right? And you wouldn't expect that. You wouldn't do that, would they? You'll have to watch and find out, I guess. So it was good. I'm glad I saw it. But yeah, it was I don't know, maybe because I had just seen the first one and I was kind of like not like blown away by it, but I was just like really dazzled and impressed by it. And so now maybe seeing the second one like so soon after, it's just like, well, this wasn't as good. I mean, it's good. Don't get me wrong. And it's doing well at the box office. I could hear kids laughing. People clapped at the end of the movie, and I don't know if it's the parents clapping or if it's the kids, but I always appreciate that when at the end of the movie when people are clapping. Not that, I mean, I wouldn't do it, but it's nice. It feels good when people is like, oh, they enjoyed this, they're appreciative of this. So that makes me think it's more so when there's kids. So that's a good thing. But yeah, it just felt like something was missing. And I think the unfortunate thing is that it's just, you're trying to compare it to the original. And the original, the original everything usually is always better. It's not really fair to compare, but you're gonna compare them. So it's a good movie. If you have kids, if the kids love the first one, they're gonna love this one. They're gonna enjoy it, except for if there's a death at the end. But it's worth watching. You want to see it on the big screen. The sound in my theater was really. There's some cool parts where there's like kind of like it was almost kind of like echoey or something like that, like because they were in this other realm thing in this one part or something. So there's some good sounds, but it was worth seeing. Speaking of sounds, I always forget to mention this. This is so far off from this movie. So basically, I'm done with Moana. But what I do want to say is when I saw Terrifier 3, oh my gosh, there was parts that was like so like ear splittingly loud, like someone is screaming and stuff. I feel like were they told to turn the volume up on purpose? Because that was just loud. But anyways, so Moana sounded really good. The visuals are really good. I just felt like it was just something was just missing a little bit. I don't know what it is, but I'm glad I saw it. It was a good whatever couple hours, however long it was. So you should check it out. And I am glad you checked this episode out. But that is the end of this week's podcast. So I do want to mention. I meant to mention this earlier. I did watch the first. You probably turned this off already. I did watch the first episode. My daughter and I watched the first episode of Interior Chinatown because we're both big Chloe Bennet fans. I don't know who's a bigger Chloe Bennet fan, she or I, from Agents of Shield. So we watched the first episode, and it's good. I want to watch more. I'm really bummed that all episodes dropped. Otherwise, I'd be talking about it on the podcast. And I just want to say this again because I feel like people need to know it. Like Chloe Bennet, I've mentioned this before. She did something for my daughter like way back, and I'm so super appreciative of what she did, and I will never forget the fact that she because it made my daughter's day. Like her and Brett Dalton, I mean, they are just such amazing, beautiful people. And then every time I've interviewed like the cast for Agents of Shield, they've always been so kind and gracious. Chloe Bennet is one of the funniest and coolest people that I've ever interviewed. I mean, I've always enjoyed. I mean, just her personality. She doesn't really post that many reels and stuff on there, but she's got this this huge sense of humor. It's a little dry and something like that, but she's just. I think she's like the best, and she will always have a place in my heart just for as kind and gracious as she was, and I wish her and the show the big as much success as they can get. And it's important. I think the main thing that the take away from the show is that this is an Asian led it's an Asian cast, and often Asians are like secondary. They're barely even secondary characters, and usually they're like the villains. Like, oh, here's the kung fu villain. They're about the henchmen or whatever. So I like the fact that this is like breaking that stereotype, and I'm really curious as to where this show is going to go. And if I get more time, I want to watch the rest of this because it's really good. But with that, big thanks to Andrew Loken. He is a big supporter of the show. You can be a supporter by going to patreon.com/gmanfromheck. Any amount you can commit to will be awesome. If you commit at the Rick Jones tier or higher, you get access to the secret podcast from Heck, which is an additional 30 to 45 minutes of podcast entertainment every single week. I just recently did like 2 weeks in a row of Off My Minds with comic book topics. I often talk about old comic book series. I may do another What If this week. We'll see what the next issue is. I don't even remember. But if you can't commit to a monthly commitment, you can also help out by going to coffee.com/gmanfromheck, and you can buy me a virtual cup of coffee or two. That's ko-fi.com/gmanfromheck. So don't forget about the Patreon iOS stuff. Avoid that so you don't pay higher if you're new. Anything you can do to support would be awesome. What is going on next week? So we will have at least one Cobra Kai. Probably one Cobra Kai because we'll have Cobra Kai, Silo, the last Superman Lois, and we have Star Wars Skeleton Crew. So that's probably going to be like more than enough right there. Keep me busy to try to get through all that. And then the movie feature. So that's the not really anything coming out next week. There's a werewolf. So my theater has like a sneak preview, screening of Werewolves, but it's with Frank Grillo. So I watched the trailer because I hadn't heard nothing about this. And there's like this super moon, whatever. And I don't know if the moon is turning people into werewolves because I don't think people are necessarily getting bit. It's like, what? And I'm just not the biggest biggest Frank Grillo fan. I mean, he's fine, but he was good in that. There was that one movie, I forget what it was. I think he was in it. It was like at a police station and a hitman. But what I think I will do, just from everything I've been hearing, I think I'm going to go see Wicked. Yeah. So it might be 2 weeks later, but 2.5 weeks. But I think I'll do that because I think people are still talking about it, and it's like, why is everyone talking about? Why is this like such a good movie? We'll see, and yeah, and just with everything, my daughter being so into the Broadway musical, I kind of want to see it because it means a lot to her that or it's important to her, something that she's into. So I'm curious to watch it. So that'll probably be the movie feature next week, or yeah. So why not, right? So with that, I hope you're doing well. I hope if you are in the United States and if you celebrate Thanksgiving, I hope you had a great Thanksgiving last week. I hope you had some time off of work. I hope you got to spend time with family or loved ones or your pets or something. I hope you are doing well. I hope you're taking care of yourself. And I hope you remember to be good to each other.